Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
This meeting is being held in conformance with the Sunshine Law. Notice of time, date, and place has been furnished to the Bergen Record and Ridgewood News. Notice has also been posted on the administration building. Would the clerk kindly take the roll?
Mayor Giordano.
Here.
Ms. Saracola.
Here.
Mr. Ritchie.
Here.
Mr. Schatz.
Here.
Mr. Shalero.
Here.
Mrs. Sherman.
Here.
Mrs. Weber.
Here.
Everyone kindly rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us have a moment of silence for all Walvick veterans, all veterans across our country who have given the ultimate sacrifice to keep us free so that we could assemble the way we are tonight. The clerk do the prayer.
Dear Lord, we start this meeting asking for your guidance and wisdom. May we find unity and fairness. The outcomes should reflect our wishes to assist the borough in all their endeavors. Thank you in his name. Amen.
Amen.
Good evening, everyone. Before we begin and ask for public comments, what we're going to do is we're going to continue our second meeting for our budget. We will start the meeting as we did at 6:30. We will have an 8 o'clock break, and then we will close down the meeting at 9:30. Anybody from the public have anything to comment before we start our meeting? Seeing no one? Old business, we have the 2023 municipal budget discussions. First of all, I'd like to thank the fire department and the police department for being here to present us with your request for 2023. I guess the police department's going to be going first. You look very dressy, so you could come up first.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
This presentation should take you right to the 8 o'clock break. So First Seaver, Lieutenant with the Police Department. I am the Operations Commander at the Police Department. I am also the town's OEM coordinator. Thank you for the opportunity to come tonight. I am here to request a Office of Emergency Management / Emergency Services vehicle used by OEM and the Police Department. Give you a quick little background on the OEM in town here. I became the coordinator last year. I was never really familiar with OEM and how it operated here. Learned a lot in my year and 2 months as the OEM coordinator. I have a very small command council that I have with me. I have a representative from the fire department, police department, and from the ambulance corps. And we have quarterly meetings. I also have a townwide committee, I guess you would say, for OEM, where I have a mass email that I can send out. I include schools, some business owners, mayor and council, so everybody's aware what's happening. As far as responsibilities, I am in charge of any kind of potential disaster that may happen in the borough. Of course, we try to prevent it as best we can. I'm also, some things I do, I monitor our community right to know, our emergency planning for community right to know, which is checking with all our businesses, making sure any chemicals that they have are complying with state laws. I would be the direct contact with FEMA in case there was some sort of an emergency that we needed to reach out to. And I currently just finished our emergency operations plan for the borough, which kind of centralized everything that we have as far as what we do in an emergency, where we go, what we do. So as far as what I need to be a coordinator, the only thing that you're required to be by law as a coordinator is you have to live in the town that you're the coordinator for, which I'm fortunate to live in Waltham, born and raised here. The state of New Jersey has one OEM coordinator for the entire state. That's the Corona State Police. He then has field offices, north, south, east, west. They all have county emergency management offices, which I serve under as the Waltham coordinator. This year we are looking to get rid of a Chevrolet Trailblazer that we have in the police department. It is probably a 2002 or 2003 Chevy Trailblazer. We do not use it for anything right now other than kind of just administrative stuff, kind of just transporting without a cage. It came to us as a donated vehicle with several thousand miles on it. We outfitted it with our canine equipment. We had a canine officer. That just goes to show you how old this car actually is. We then hooked up with a technical school in Paramus that was able to paint the car for us because it used to be white. So we took the stickers off, took the cage out, painted it black. I think the odometer stopped working about 40,000 miles ago. So it's time to be replaced, and I thought it would be a good idea that to request this. So what we would do for this vehicle is we could use it as a critical incident command vehicle. And what I mean by critical incident is we would be the first responding vehicle to a school lockdown, an active shooter, potential bomb threat, barricaded subject, or any incident where outside agencies could respond without being requested, even a large-scale training emergency. And when I say OEM command vehicle, I mean that would be the central piece of what is in command, where you're reporting everything that's coming out of that OEM command vehicle. Also for crisis management, of course with OEM, natural disasters, hurricanes, snowstorms, flooding. You know, we get a 100-year flooding storm here, it seems like twice or 3 times a year. PSEG substation emergencies, we all remember that from a few years ago, what we had there. I can also use it as a police function, crime scene preservation, a large-scale incident involving death or serious injury, serious motor vehicle crashes, search for armed dangerous subjects, missing juvenile, large crowd presence, anything that requires an incident scene to be secured and county or state assets to respond along with our municipal forces. These types of incidents require a staging location and a central command post with a properly equipped command vehicle, which we currently do not have for OEM or on the police department side. Patrol vehicles are needed to be mobile and work the problem at hand. They are not set up for effective large-scale incident management. So what I mean by that is patrol cars need to come to a scene, work that scene, move on to the next scene. They're not set up to be deployed at a scene for a large amount of time. They don't have the proper radio functions inside there. They don't have the proper gear or equipment. As I said, they're just geared towards that one responsibility that they have. To properly manage a scene or an ongoing situation, police and all of our support personnel should report to the command vehicle for accountability, take direction from the commanding officer. As the OEM coordinator, that would obviously be me. I would have deputy coordinators there if I wasn't around or in the area. From a police department side, this would be the primary command post for a police emergency as well, and it would run out of this vehicle. You'll see a little bit later when I have some equipment, a large whiteboard set up outside the command vehicle, personnel, locations, strategic planning. It's all best for effective large-scale management. One of the reasons why I came up with this idea is when we had that pretty serious lockdown at the high school last December, I was working that scene as the incident commander out of the back of Patrol Car 504, which wasn't ideal for what we had. When the county wound up coming with some bigger resources, we had to terminate that command post and move it to an alternate location that had the proper gear and setup that we could run out of there. During the critical incident, other responding agencies would be told to overspend. That's a statewide police emergency network. Every town in New Jersey has that one radio system. This vehicle would have that system in there. To report to the OEM command vehicle, this way it prevents self-deployment. We do not want people coming to an incident wall look and going right to the incident. They need to check in. We need to know who they are, what they're doing, what their responsibility was, and they need to get direction from who's ever in charge. County utilizes such vehicles heavily for a wide range of incidents. They're vital for our safe and efficient operation. Bergen County SWAT team, bomb squad, OEM, crisis negotiation team, et cetera. You can think of the county or state level, they have command vehicles that they run. What I'm proposing to you is a 2023 Ford Expedition. We've made the switch in the last year to Fords at our police department with the Ford Utility Interceptors coming in. We currently have 3 of them now. I'm proposing a Ford Expedition. It's a 2023. This is exactly how I would want to set it up, plus or minus the front push bar. It would not have any graphics on it. It would be an all-black vehicle, and it would have the low-profile emergency lights. There's a side view. I hope you can see it. I can't really make it bigger. It's not equipped with the standard police car supplies you would see. Like there's no computer, there's no camera, there's no dash cam. We do have the body cameras so that we run it off of there. It does not have a cage, but it has what's very important here, an equipment box in the back. This is similar to what I would order. However, I would order something with a draw here and a draw here. They would pull out. One would be equipped with 2 radios that I could work the scene from the back, and then the other would be equipped with a large whiteboard that we could assign personnel to from the back of that vehicle. Just an inside view. Again, no cage, nothing to use for prisoner transport on the police side, strictly for emergency response. And then here's the 2 shells that would pull out. 2023 Ford Expedition pricing, it's part of the Cranford Co-op pricing system, XL SSV package. The outright vehicle purchase price comes in at $50,318, a 2-year lease, 2 equal payments, get you that number. Of course, if we lease the car, it's a little bit more, but it's a dollar buyout at the end, and then it's all yours. So there would be the 2-year lease if we did it that way, and then the 3-year total cost. On your, right in front of you, I've dropped you guys 2 quotes. One is from Major Police Supply. That would be for low-profile emergency lights and equipment for inside the car, as well as radio installation, which I will get to on the next slide. The total cost for the low-profile emergency lights and all the equipment I would need to purchase for the vehicle, $10,715.19. Communications. I have a quote also in front of you from Tactical Public Safety, who the senior sales rep for this company actually lives in Waltham. He gave me a great price on this. It's for a mobile radio, $3,069.60. I would equip that radio in the center console of the vehicle. As far as the radio in the back, we currently have a Dodge Durango SUV that has a radio in the back. I would take that radio, put it in this car, saving us probably anywhere between $300 and $3,500 on that radio cost. And that's all I have. Questions?
Yes.
Sounds good?
Thanks, Troy. So you want to make the vehicle plain black? You're not going to put OEM markings on it or anything like that?
I didn't have plans to do that, but I would be open to put anything on there that
So just
we
at
would
the
feel
scene,
appropriate.
everybody knows it's the black SUV.
Yeah. Yep.
So in terms of where it would be stored, you have a plan for where the car's going to be maintained or it's going to be housed?
So I would definitely house it at the police department. If it were something where we had something anticipated, like a weather emergency coming, I would probably look to have it at my house or at my coordinator's house, my deputy coordinators, as long as they live in Walbrook, so that it could respond from there for a quicker emergency. Again, I'm multi-purposing this too, so from an emergency services point of view, I would be interested in looking to make sure like the senior officer who might work in emergency services situation in town here would have easy access to that car.
So it sounds like you've given some thought to the order of like who brings the vehicle to the scene.
Yes.
So you have a written out plan or you just a broader,
I have a thought that I would put into policy when, if I was looking at it.
I mean, I'm assuming you're the person to bring it to the scene unless
Yes,
you weren't available, you were there.
correct. If I wasn't around, I'd make sure one of my deputy coordinators had it. If we were expecting like a large snowstorm or something like that, I'd make sure that it would be in my house. And if you guys know me, you know that anything that happens here, I'm normally there. So.
What's the difference between your command vehicle and the fire chief's?
Well, I feel that the fire department operates for their fire safety. I feel like this could be used in so many other situations that we would have in town, severe, serious car accidents. But don't just think of it as the fire department using theirs and OEM.
You're gonna be working
using
together.
theirs. We work as a team. It's a teamwork. So if I have equipment that the fire department could share and vice versa, that's what we're looking to do.
And your radio frequency would be the same as theirs?
My second radio in the back would be able to coordinate with them,
So if they need something from you, you'll be there and
100%.
anyone else?
Thank you, Lieutenant. Would the assistant to you be a police officer as well, or would that be
My
anyone?
My deputy coordinator is Anthony Paris from the fire department, but then my other my other deputies on there is Dave Passeretti from the police department and Lucas Mistroos from the ambulance corps. So it's something that we would coordinate as we were working, but it would always be ready to respond to an emergency.
Okay, my concern is it wouldn't be a problem with them driving what I'm looking at as a police vehicle, people who aren't police officers?
I don't see an issue at all. They're all borough, so Lucas can drive an ambulance. I can drive as a police officer in town, I can drive an ambulance.
Okay.
And I would think Anthony Paris would be able to operate this without a problem. And again, I'm kind of not, while it could be used for police,
Right, I
Again,
understand,
yeah.
it's mostly for the emergency. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my only concern was utilizing it, as opposed to like, we have a fire commissioner's vehicle that they got from somebody, and it basically sits there. I mean, I would prefer that you utilize it for as many things as you can.
Absolutely.
As opposed to sitting around.
Yeah.
Even if you took it around yourself and used it for, you plan on using it for some police calls or whatever, not just OEM calls, but police calls.
Correct.
As well. That would be my only concern.
I would assure you that if there was a police emergency, this vehicle would be on the scene.
But
working that
but just like, make sure it doesn't want to be sitting around and be used, utilized.
How long, if this is approved, how long before you would get it? What's the turnover time?
When I first called, not too long ago, they were a little backed up on getting the cars. And the lighting, company is still a little bit behind me, with police supply on supply. I would hope and anticipate that if approved, that I could get it towards the end of the summer and be ready to go by September.
Anyone else? Yes.
Thanks. Nice presentation. Just to clarify, the alternative is like a 2002 without a working odometer? Okay. Thank you.
I guess we're gonna get no money on that, huh?
That is set to sell, I'm not sure how much we're gonna get for it, but I believe we're gonna sell it this year.
The only other question I
Sure.
The only other question I would have would be, Matt, would there be some kind of grant opportunities, do you think, to try and pay for some of this? Or we have to do it now, or we have to do it ahead of time, or do we get it after the fact and put it towards that vehicle?
In terms of the budgeting, I would go forward that you're paying for the whole vehicle. That doesn't mean I won't do everything I can to get grants, but I wouldn't assume that money is gonna come in for the vehicle. But I would.
You wouldn't assume?
I wouldn't assume. When you're deciding to fund or not, I would assume you're paying for the full purchase price. That doesn't mean I won't do everything possible to find grants and apply
Right,
and get funding,
yeah, that's what it is.
but I can't, guarantee that.
No, I understand that. I just want, we would just make every effort to try and, because this seems like a perfect type of a piece of equipment that you could get some kind of grants for, to pay for some of it after the fact, or at least grants for the upkeep of it. To a certain extent. Not mechanical, but radios and upkeeps on those over the next couple of years. How long do you anticipate the usefulness of this car?
Well, it's not gonna be used as a police car per se, so it's gonna be preserved. So if we were able to approve this, and we were to get it, I could see this for a several year investment that we would have. I don't know about as long as the Trailblazer. We got a better part of, I feel like 20 years into that, but I expect to have, I'm not coming here in a year asking for another one, so we're gonna have this for a while. But I wanna do it right also, like I wanna have the right vehicle, the right situation.
Anyone else? Patrick, do you have any questions? Katie?
Yeah, thank you. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, so it's like the $50,000 plus the 10, right? Plus the 3
Correct.
for this year.
Yes.
And then are there any recurring costs? Okay.
Other than maintenance, which are, our DPW guy, he does a great job maintaining
Yep.
our fleet. And then we're looking at a warranty year too, so this anything happen, it would be warranty coverage. We have normally fleet warranties with our police cars that we buy. I'm assuming this would come with that also, which normally covers 75 to 100,000 on the power.
Okay.
If it's okay with you guys, I can take this presentation and share the link. It's on my Google Drive. So if I can share the link with maybe Patrick, if he can throw it out to you guys, that would be, if that's
Fine.
okay. This way, if you had any more questions, you refer back to it, or you know, my contact.
Patrick, do you have any
great.
questions? Thank you.
Good?
Thank you very
Great,
much.
thank you.
Thank you.
It's good, yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have asked the Police Department Lieutenant Seifert and Lieutenant Dowling to present now on the accreditation. So that was the 3 documents that I shared with you yesterday. They'll review the proposal in terms of what you get for accreditation, how much it costs, and the State Police Chiefs Association had put out a benefits of accreditation that they can share with you. And I'll start out, since we're in budget, I'll start out with how we would budget for this. So the cost is $52,905 in year 1. The JIF has a loan/grant program where they will give us $25,000 towards that fee, so it would reduce it to $27,905 in the first year. That grant program would be paid back over subsequent years with discounts that we get on our JIF premium. So once we are accredited, the JIF offers us a 5% discount on our workers' comp and our GL lines. that's going to come out to $5,000 to $8,000 a year. So in future years, the JIF will give us that discount, but not actually apply it to our premium. They'll take it to pay back that loan/grant program. They call it a grant program, but if you pay the money back, it's a loan, right? So they'll use that to pay back the loan, but then after the loan is fully paid off, that discount will be applied to our premium. So in subsequent years, we would see that 5% discount, again, that $5,000 to $8,000 off our premium. And the reason for that, the JIF realizes that accredited police agencies have a lower claims rating because of the policies and the training that they have put in place. It basically lowers our exposure. So it's, you know, the JIF sees this as a good thing. It is a good thing, but we have to budget for it. So the police department will discuss more about what that entails. Yeah. If you don't mind to sit and speak into the microphone so that we get it on recording, yeah.
Hello, everybody. Lieutenant Tom Dowling with the, I'm an administrative lieutenant with the police department, in case anyone doesn't know. We're here to discuss the accreditation of the police department, and I understand Pat shared with you guys some information on it already from the New Jersey State Chiefs Association and what they do and what this Lexapro company does as far as what they're going to do is basically take the standards that the New Jersey State Chiefs Association, Chiefs of Police Association has, and they're going to help us get our policies, procedures, SOPs, everything, bring them up, be compliant with the laws in the state, including even our whole facility at the police department, make sure we're up to the standards that the Chiefs Association feels the police department needs to be accredited within the state. The timeline for this is roughly 12 months, and during that 12 months, they're going to come in, there's going to be a accreditation manager, most likely we'll probably be Troy and myself doing this. And we will meet, they'll come in, they have a team that comes in, they'll have a project manager, so to speak. They'll also have like 3 or 4 under him who will help write policies, meet with us, go over our facility, go over the things we do. And what they want to do is, it's not so much, they're going to help us inform what we need to do as a Waldeck Police Department and help meet the standards that the state set. So it's not just they're going to set a standard and just say, this is what you have to do. They're going to say, this is what you have to do, but how can we do it and help you get there as a Waldeck Police Department? So it's really like, it's a team effort with them to get us to the accreditation. One of the big things on why we feel we need this, and I know, like, I found an email today back from, I think, 16, where Lieutenant Moore at the time asked about getting this done. And I don't know which borough administrator was at the time, if it was Andrew or Gary, but I know this has been breached. This subject's been brought up in the past over many years, and for some reason it just never maybe got to this point. So I'm glad we're here today, at least presenting this to you. But this is something that's long overdue. Police department and the policies that we have are good. The problem we're running into now as administrators is the state and the Attorney General are coming out with so many directives, reform, and the policies are great, but they're long, evolved, and written by lawyers, which are it's hard to get through. And you get through them, and we break them down, and we try to do that, and it's tough. It really is. And this is what these managers at Lexapro will do. They'll help us get the policies broken down and be able to get them into our policies, and so that the police officers on the street, the young guys that we have, and even some of the older guys can understand it and know what they're doing out there and be more confident in their jobs. Hopefully, do the right thing and be able to do their jobs and function without when they do something wrong is when, that's when the lawsuits happen, that's when news media comes out and everything like that, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Especially our newer officers. Our new officers really need the structure and guidance of the policies and procedures through this accreditation. Today's law enforcement officer, the young guys, they're on their phones, their technology is just what they're so used to. This is something that would be at their fingertips. It could be, the app could be downloaded to their phone, it could be brought up in the car if they're the internet, so they would be able to access this immediately. Unfortunately, that's just the way that they're brought up. It wasn't how I was brought up, but to me, it was opening up a book and reading. We're the new generation. So that's really why we need this. It's just really going to help us. You know, you guys saw some of the stats in there, what this would do. I mean, it'll hopefully bring down your insurance, help with that. It'll greater accountability for the officers in doing their jobs. Hopefully eliminate some lawsuits. I mean, some of the accredited agencies, they throw some numbers here. 11% fewer professional liability claims. Workman's comp goes down 18%. 31 fewer revealed liability claims. I mean, it seems like the only thing really holding this back is just the cost. And we understand it's a big cost. We really do. But it's a cost that, compared to a lawsuit from one of the officers, is going to be minimal. So this program, accreditation is good for 3 years, and during that 3 years, we would continue to work with the Lexapro team, and gear towards reaccreditation. So they're always going to be there. They're always going to be a part of this accreditation process. And when they, you know, like I said, every 3 years, you have to go back to the State Chiefs Association and reapply. So they're with you doing that, making sure that when you apply, you are already at the standard you need to be. So it's a constant, ongoing, getting better, more knowledgeable process. Do you have anything?
Policies and procedures is a tool. Knowledge is a tool. We need our officers to have the tools, the best tools that they can, to do their job the best way they can. Right now, our policies are a little bit, I don't want to say outdated, but maybe some that are on the older side. The system could use a revamping, and this is the best way to do it. There's a lot of stuff going on with police officers. A lot of stuff that they're learning on the job. They need to have structure, they need to have policy procedures, just like they need computers in the cars, just like they need our ticketing system, just like they need our body cams, like our less lethal. They need the tools, and this is just another tool. And it's important.
Is Lexapol the only company that offers this, or is this
They're
the one that everybody uses?
the one that everyone uses.
Yeah, because I've seen all the.
You
all
saw
the-
on the back of
yeah.
that thing, there's hundreds.
And then also the online training modules, that's for all the police officers to use, or to be
Yes.
trained with.
That would be, I have a copy of that proposal for that here. I don't know if that was included in. but-
Yeah, I think I have it.
Yes, so it covers all of our, every year the police department, we have certain things that we have to do. You know, we have to do youth support training, we have to do domestic violence training, we have, you know, like, a bunch of things. These will all, every month, basically, there is
And
a
they'll do that.
program where it is included in it. And then it's not everything is mandatory, but there are some good things that they always throw in there that would be good to have. So the training program would just be one of those things where they would send it to us, we would modify it, Troy and I, or whoever, to fit what we can give tests through it, we can just, and they basically take the online module, they would sign off that they did it, they would test, they would post their results, and then you would keep that, and you have that as far as your training. And if something ever came up with this officer and you need to show their training or what they were taught, and they can't sit there and know that because of use of force. I didn't know that. Well, you took the test, you took the class, you scored, you certainly did know it, or you should have known it. So it's something like that, but it's also just one of those things where it's something we have to do
Right.
every year anyway.
This is like your own little IT.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
It's like your own IT company, yeah. Somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
They'll be there to protect you all the time.
I would say law enforcement ID company.
Yeah.
That would really help.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. So you answered one of my questions about what happens after you become accredited. I'm only going to speculate. I don't remember having a discussion about this in the past, so maybe it was a cost, maybe it was a time commitment. So my question first is about the time commitment. You guys are busy. I know everyone is pretty full, so this sounds like an additional time commitment to meet the requirements, additional training to what you already have to do, and, you know, keeping your operations running, you know, as you have in the past while doing this. So you feel comfortable that we're going to be able to put this in there as well?
We would have the staff data.
So in regard to, you know, it says something in here about an accreditation manager. Is there someone who's going to be assigned to overseeing this to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing? And who would that be? You have a plan?
For myself, I'm assuming, unless if not, if we talk to the company, they say you could probably both do it, or
Ultimately, that's the chief's decision, but I would probably be.
Got it. Okay, so you hadn't decided that yet, but you know you have to do that. Okay. So I saw in here that there's some software program that comes along with this. I forgot what it was called. Do we know that it's compatible with our current system? What,
yeah, Power DMS standard?
Power DMS.
Yes, it is definitely compatible, and you need it. We have Power DMS right now.
Oh, we do.
We do have Power DMS. The standards is what we would need to be accredited, because I guess there are certain, I guess they have, for some reason, that you need that software to get the accreditation.
Got it. And that's part of this cost, or is that a separate cost for the Power DMS standard?
The Power DMS standard, I believe, is, it's a separate cost, but I was talking to the sales guy who said he could basically prorate. We did it this year, he would prorate it, and then, or whenever we did it, he always prorate it into our thing, and that, into our cost, and then going forward, he would just give us one bill for the Power DMS and the standards.
Okay. So the total of that is in the numbers we're talking about.
That's right. So there was an accreditation cost sheet that was circulated. Power DMS standards is $805. There's an NJSA COP setup, $4,000, online training module, $4,000. All that adds up to the $52,905 total
Got it.
for the initial year, less the loan program.
Great.
And since I'm talking, I'll just add in that a lot of times when the police department, and actually it happens for finance, myself, and Kelly as well, the state will put out new guidelines, and we have to scramble around to figure out which municipality has drafted their the update to their code, and then everybody just steals theirs, right? And so that works really well for us. Sometimes we draft them and other places steal our stuff, right? So we'll share. On the police department right now, because they don't have this program, that's what they're left to do for some of these policy and procedures. They go to other departments who have a well-formatted policy because they are accredited and they get these policies. We then steal them from them, but then we have to adopt that in our own program, so that diminishes a little bit of the value there. And it's also not kept up to date as well as an accredited agency is, because these are accredited agencies every year through your accreditation and renewal process, you're going through your policy and procedures. So they're continually updated. So that diminishes a little bit of the value that of the policy that we steal from other places. So, that's why this is important for the borough.
Well, just that, like, when new policy does come out, or they change a policy, like use of force halfway through the year, they will automatically do the updates and send it to you. You don't have to ask them. They will automatically know that this has to get, you need to update your policy, and you need to get back to it. Here you go, here's the new policy, look it over, make any changes, this and that, and
Right, right now, we do have policies and procedures, but they're not.
we do.
Yeah, and who's in charge of that?
No, they're
I mean, who?
they're as current as we could,
Right, that's what I mean.
The problem is when, like, the use of force policy comes out and they, put it into effect almost immediately,
It's hard.
it's 60 pages or, 40 pages, and we have to go through it, we have
Right.
to dissect it,
Right.
because it's written, like I said, it's written by legal experts,
Right.
and they are using, we get paid by the word. And they, we have to modify it so it fits us.
Okay.
And it's time consuming, it's a lengthy process.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
Thank you. You mentioned that your accreditation lasts for 3 years, correct?
Yes.
What happens after that time? What is the cost factor involved? Do you start at zero again and have to pay
No,
the?
it is, you don't start at zero. You, every year you pay the yearly fee, and then, that's what I'm saying, like during that 3 years, you're kind of working, especially that last year, you're working to make sure your standards and your policies and everything is current, so when you go apply again at the end of that 3 years, the Chiefs Association will come in, their accreditation process, or managers, or whoever it is, come in, and they'll review everything and hopefully approve you again, and you just roll right into your next 3 years.
So
Oh.
There's not an additional, like, $4,000 cost, I believe it's just a yearly cost.
Oh,
The-
okay.
the- There's an accreditation process through the New Jersey State Police Chiefs Association, and then there is what we're paying for here, which gets us everything we need to become accredited, right? So those are somewhat separate, but this is, the bulk of the cost here is paying for the process of getting our standards up to the point where we will be accredited by the accrediting agency. After that, no, there won't be, we'll have the annual cost that we described, less than the initial startup cost. We don't pay this 52 grand every 3
Oh,
years.
okay, okay. It seems to me that it's in our best interest to have these policies as current as possible. So I thank you for your presentation.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lexipol is, obviously, they say they're out of Texas, but it looks like most of the people that they've using the policy team is out of New Jersey. Do they have an office in New Jersey? Or is their office, I mean, just they, I would think,
Before Lexipro, Lexipro brought a company called Rogers Group, and the person who started that was a New Jersey trooper.
yeah, he's in here, Frank Rogers.
Yeah, so it was pretty much a New Jersey, Northeast maybe based company, but primarily in New Jersey.
Yeah, no, I like to make sure that New Jersey's getting the business too. I mean, I would love to, this is seems like a very good idea of policymaking, and I would love to have it done, but I'd also probably like to get a couple other bids as well. I mean, I just think that we might want to get, and see, compare to 2 bids or 2 or 3 bids. Just seems like it's a lot of money for doing that, and yeah, I know you said there's a lot of other companies that do this, so I would like to get other bids, or you don't think there's,
I don't
what
think
are you
there
making
any
faces for?
companies that really do this.
Yeah, I'm not aware of other companies, at least that operate in our area, that perform this accreditation. That doesn't mean you couldn't find someone that'll tell you they'll do it, but as far as the
Well, I thought the
experienced
mayor asked him, he
companies.
said that there was a lot of other companies that do this.
No, they're right here.
A lot of other
I mean, I'm
agencies,
sorry.
Oh, that's the company.
a lot,
I'm talking about the police department.
yeah, a lot of other police departments in our area that have accreditation through this company.
And I would probably think that to get that you would be guaranteed to get accreditation. I mean, if they failed, if we didn't get the accreditation, I would think that we would probably get our money back for the most part. But I would think they'd get a guarantee or accreditation on this. Do you know about that, or do they
I mean,
give a guarantee or?
The onus is on us to do the work, and so there's not a concern, at least from our end, that we won't be accredited. We have the personnel in our police department to handle the management of the accreditation, and the Rogers Group, which is now Lexipol, has a long track record of getting agencies accredited. So, that's not our concern. We have to put the resources to it, and it's something we'll do because we understand the value of it.
They give us the platform, and we use to do it, and then we execute.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll just wait a minute, and then we'll have the fire department come up and do their presentation.
A lot of legalese.
just send it to them and, right, let's vote on this. I was confused if you had to repay the 50,000 after. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All those questions, like, if I go to college and I don't graduate, can I?
Oh, thanks.
I know. I know Midland Park just did that, because I read it in the newspaper. That's what it just did that. Oh, yeah.
You need a bigger screen.
I didn't. look
Patrick,
at
you
it.
want to just start
I saw him in
into our meetings and whatever?
I just
And then
read
we'll
this.
take it to the fire department?
Sure, so.
You know, your spin on things.
Yeah, so the mayor and council are aware, because we began this discussion last year in our budget meeting, that the fire department is requesting a replacement of their 2001 ladder truck. So in last year's budget process, the mayor and council had indicated a willingness to fund this in future years. They had given the okay for the fire department to begin a committee to look at the replacement of this truck. They had asked that Councilwoman Sarah Cole and I be a part of that conversation, and the fire department has now come before you with a request for the truck.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Walt Riker, Walden Fire Department Fire Chief. Myself, Assistant Chief of Guglielmo, and Captain Dave Guy, and Lieutenant Matt Amos and everything. We came to you guys tonight and everything with a presentation of replacing out our old America of France ladder truck, with the exception of trying to get us the new ladder truck and everything. Saying that with the existing truck and everything, she's getting up there in age. And with America of France being out of business, this way, borough administrator told me, to get my committee together. So the other guys are, not here tonight. It's just the four of us that come in front of you with all the information that you guys were seeking of what we were trying to do, going out, looking at all other manufacturers, and seeing what other apparatuses that would be able to work in the borough for the town. So. Any questions?
All right, our current ladder truck is a 2001 American LaFrance 93-foot mid-mount tower ladder. It has a 60-inch cab, and its overall length is 45 foot 8. It weighs approximately 62,780 pounds and has a 10K Harrison generator on it currently. Primary use for our ladder truck is for elevated ventilation and rescue at a fire scene. It is our second due piece out of Company 2 on Whitecliff Ave, and it holds the majority of all our ladder equipment, our rescue rope, our hand tools, our saws, etc. Service history on the truck, it's very well maintained. Every year the aerial is tested. The motor and truck is maintenance by the DPW and their manufacturer as well. Miscellaneous repairs have been over the past few years. In 2004, the ladder pipe failed, and it was out of service for about 6 weeks till they can get the part. They had trouble getting it, and about 6 weeks later, they found it, put it installed, and was back in service. In 2014, as many of you know, American LaFrance went out of business for the second and final time. In 2018, we had the main pistons on the ladder truck replaced. The pistons are what makes the ladder truck go up and down and go back into the bed. They were leaking on us, and they were causing the ladder to go down on its own, so we had to get them replaced. And in 2020, the cables in the ladder that allow the ladder to extend and retract had failed, and we had to get them replaced, and we found that out during our ladder testing procedure.
So, there's there's a bunch of reasons why we're actually going to replace the truck. First of all, as you know, American France went out of business. To refurb that truck, there's really no manufacturers that will actually touch that because it's a company that went out of business. It's an odd design. It's a custom designed torque box. That's what the actual ladder is mounted to. So as far as refurbing it, almost nobody's going to touch that truck. On top of it, the time and money to refurb the truck, it's just not effective. Typically, you're going to refurb an apparatus after 8 to 10 years. We're way past that point with that truck. The other issue with that, too, like the American France being out of business, the ladder and everything is manufactured by a company called LTI that was owned by LaFrance. Now you're taking a piece of equipment that went out of business, putting it on a new chassis. There's a lot of unknown variables that can go wrong with that. When shopping around and searching for a new truck, we, as a committee, visited numerous towns, different departments to see different manufacturers. We traveled Delaware, Pennsylvania, Long Island, New York, our own time, our own money, looking at a bunch of different manufacturers to see what would be the best truck to work for the borough. We came up with a list of criteria. That was going to be the best option for that. You guys should have that list in front of you there. The biggest thing we wanted to do was get a truck for the borough that's going to serve the borough today and in the future. We didn't want to get something that's just not going to work for the town moving forward. You look around town now, there's all new buildings being put up, multi-families, multi-stories, buildings getting bigger, longer, they're more congested. We want something that's going to serve that purpose moving forward. So after looking at a bunch of manufacturers, trying to see what was going to meet our criteria, Pierce seemed to have the best option for the borough. Dave, you want to go over some comparisons there?
So, going back and forth between our truck and their truck, it's a shorter truck with a longer ladder. The 2023 Pierce has a 100-foot in-mount tower ladder. We need that more for the reach than the height. Nobody wants to go up 100 feet in the air, myself included. You need it for the setbacks that are in the town. A lot of the residential stuff has since gone from single-story to two-story. So not only do we have to go from the curb line to the roof line, but now we also have to go up further. Going back to choosing manufacturers, again, shorter overall length with a longer ladder. There's less tail swing. So on big trucks, the tail swing is the distance from the rear tires to the back. So it's easier to maneuver around town. It's easier to drive. Has a quicker setup time. This truck has the same amount of jacks as our current one, but only one set comes out. It's easier to place. It's for the setup, there's less stuff that we have to look for to be able to get this truck set up. Why we want to purchase this now, there's a graph in that packet that I gave you guys. We've kind of been projecting it. There's pricing from previous trucks that are similar going forward. Currently, right now, the lead time on the trucks is 32 months. So that being said, if we were to purchase, say if we were to get it approved and start the purchase process in May of 2023, we would not see that truck till January of 2026. That being said, we would have to hope that the 2001 American LaFrance lasts till January 2026. Like the chief said, we've had some issues with it in the past. Going forward, we've chosen a couple of options on the truck that upgrade us from our current truck, maximize the use of space. Obviously, if it's a smaller truck, there's going to be smaller compartment space. We want to be able to use all our equipment to get it on that truck. We've ensured that that's going to be no problem. Over time, upgrading in safety, easy use, ergonomics for our members and firefighters. Easier to use in a low manpower situation. Typically on ours, there's two sides they have to set up. The driver can set up with one control in the rear for both sides. obviously, being a taxpayer and a resident of Waldwick, everybody wants to be fiscally responsible. So I'll go over a couple opportunities for savings. Typically, in past purchases, we have prepaid the chassis and the aerial. That's roughly $30,000 in savings. There's a potential to sell the 2001 American LaFrance. What that cost could be, I'm not 100% sure. I've seen anywhere from $25,000 to $75,000, depending on condition and stuff like that. This truck, we're going to repurpose all the tools that we already currently have on our tower ladder. If you put all that together, the SCBA's, the radios that we just purchased not too long ago, that's probably $100,000 in savings. And then just the onus on ourselves, choosing a smaller motor. We have the ability to get a bigger motor than this truck. We decided that we do not need that. So we went with a smaller motor and a smaller generator just because stuff is more efficient, so we don't need that draw on the generator. So we've had countless visits to other departments, had a couple trucks come in town, visit a couple different places in town that we deemed that was a very tight fit. Some fit, some did not. Overall, just on scheduled meetings and trips, we probably have about over 400 volunteer man-hours invested in this already. Other than that, is there any specific questions? I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen this in the budget. It's probably the biggest number that's on that sheet. Is there any specific questions regarding this truck that you need answered?
So you kind of gave a reason why the 100-foot ladder. I just wondered if there were other sizes you considered, or were you looking for the 100-foot specifically?
So, the industry in a whole has basically gone to 100 feet. Every manufacturer out there right now has a 100-foot truck, a 100-foot ladder, rather. That's really about it. One of our criteria was for coming out of the truck is we didn't want to go with a ladder that was shorter than we currently had. It just makes no sense. That truck in 2001 hit the borough at that point, and there's a list of all the new buildings that have gone up since then. And you can see even the borough hall here is much longer than that. Like the captain said, it's not about the height, it's the reach. You have a building like the station in town, you want to be able to reach as far as you can with that ladder. With Bristol, it's a senior citizen building, you get the rest of people out of certain windows, you'd hate to come up 4 feet short. So all these manufacturers, they do make shorter ladders, looking at 70 feet, 80 feet, but other than that, it's 100 feet as an industry standard basically now. There is a sheet up there that you guys should have. A lot of the manufacturers we did look at that do have a 100-foot ladder, their overall length exceeds what we currently have. So right now, our tower ladder in town is 45 feet, 8 inches. Even the next closest competitor, with a shorter cab, a 100-foot ladder, is still a couple feet longer than that. The Pierce gives you a 100-foot ladder and a 43-foot overall length truck. I mean, that's over 2 feet short of what we currently have. We did bring up a truck from Wayne Fire Department. They had a Spartan mid-mount, 100-foot. It was 49 feet long. The driver of that truck took it around town to a lot of tight areas, some tighter roads on the east side of town here. He had a difficult time getting around. We couldn't even get it really set up and turned around behind the Bristol. The truck was just too long. So that's again why we're looking at the Pierce. Get that longer ladder, shorter overall length.
So that was another question, so you went right into it. Is the other manufacturers, the reason you chose the Pierce was because the other trucks for the same size ladder were longer?
Much longer, yeah. That's one of a bunch of different reasons.
We also currently have 2 Pierces. The cabs are going to be set up the same. So whether you're driving the engine or you're driving the tower ladder, all the stuff is pretty much the same. Switches, controls, drivability. They're a long-standing fire truck manufacturer, largest one in the United States. Again, we've had a good track record of fire and safety. He was the sales rep and the service center for them right down the Turnpike. So kind of trying to streamline and not having to learn something else. And nothing really gone wrong with our Pierces, so to continue with their long-standing track record.
Got it, thank you. So you mentioned on the current truck that there was some customization that would be difficult to repair, replace. Is there any customization on this truck that you're looking at that might make it difficult to manage, maintain, or repair 10, 15 years in the future?
So going to that, a lot of the other manufacturers are owned by the Rev Group, which has been like a conglomerate that has been buying up ladder trucks. That's another selling point to go for Pierce. Pierce isn't going to be bought out. They're owned by Oshkosh, which is one of the largest truck manufacturers in the United States, in the world, so to speak. We don't want to put ourselves to buying something different that we could potentially be back in this issue again. So like right now, American France, say we don't even crash it, somebody crashes into us. That truck's out of service for a very long time because we cannot find parts for that. Because they've been out of service, they've been out of business for almost 10 years now. We don't want to put the borough and ourselves in that same spot to where the Rev Group decides that maybe they don't want to make that ladder 10 years down the line. And then now we're sitting here holding a 10-year-old ladder truck going, crap, we got to make another 15 years out of this, but now we're in the same boat. So that's kind of why we've also chosen Pierce for that reason, so we don't try to put ourselves in the position we are now.
Anyone else?
I have a question.
Sure.
So do you guys know approximately how many calls the ladder truck currently responds to, like on average, in Waldwick specifically?
For calls last year in the borough and going out, we were probably around like 243 calls for the year. The ladder truck does go out on a lot of calls. Anytime that the pager goes off, you know, the engine to rescue, the ladder truck will go out. They go out on every single call that we have that's
Okay.
within the borough.
Thank you. How long has Pierce been around for? 100 years. How long was LaFrance around? I'm just trying to get a general idea of, you know, LaFrance went out. If it was around for 100 years, and it went out too.
around for a long time as well.
Yeah, okay.
They
I know it too.
Yeah, they got out of business twice.
Yeah. That's not necessarily the truck or anything like that. That's necessarily people. That's the people who run the company that ran it into the ground, not the truck. But also, my other question: is it Campbell that can do that? Don't they do all the trucks around here, or is that Campbell on the Turnpike, or no?
Campbell handles the American LaFrancis and the Spartan that we currently have. Pierce is the fire and safety is Pierce's their rep. Yeah.
So they're not Pierce reps.
Campbell does not handle.
They're about the same area, aren't they? They're on a Turnpike.
Yeah, they're
Road
right.
now.
They're all right there. Yep,
Yeah, they're in the center part of the state.
Yep.
correct.
They're right in the Plainfield area.
Yeah, I know what that is. I know what it is. Yeah. For now.
Anybody else?
Thank you for your presentation. How many miles does your 2001 have on it? I understand the parts are hard to get, but is there a current problem with that truck? And approximately how many miles does it have? Like, like some of my vehicles at home, I'm like, oh man, this thing's not gonna last another year. Is that your prediction, or what?
It's hard to compare mileage on a vehicle that you own and a vehicle that serves for time. Because we're driving our normal vehicles all over the place all day long. So the ladder truck and all our vehicles do have lower mileage on them.
Which means nothing because they idle a long time at
It goes by hours.
scenes.
It's the hours
the
that,
hours.
you know, accumulate and everything
Yes.
that causes the problems for wear and tear on the engines and stuff like that, and the transmissions, the rear ends and stuff like that. So it's just like, you know, all our fire apparatuses might have low mileage, but you'll have, you know, high hours and everything that are gonna be on the motor, the transmission, you know, from them being parked and everything, and then, you know, the higher RPMs that the trucks have to run at to run, that's what puts all the wear and tear on the engine parts and the transmission, rear end parts and all that like that when we're driving, or if it's just sitting, you know, idling, or like, you know, the engines, you know, with the high idle, that have to be up there for flowing water out and everything. Same thing, the ladder truck has to do the same thing, that, when that gets hooked up, water's getting flown out of that. So the RPMs are going up, they're always up on all our apparatus that have to keep it maintained, but it's just the hours that wear everything out on the vehicles.
I understand. Thank you for the explanation. Are there any problems with that truck now that you're aware of? Like, you see big problems coming, it's,
I mean, so 2018, we did have to replace the pistons, which, I mean, is the main up and down, and then 2020, we had to replace the cables, which is the main in and out. From that, I mean, that's the main purpose of your vehicle. If
Right.
you can't run the ladder, then you just have a giant.
So it
pistons.
seems to
Yeah.
me
So
different
it's
things are
deteriorating
breaking.
For sure, yeah. From an engine standpoint, that's the problem, is that right now we're planning 2023 in hopes that it lasts till 2026.
Right.
In the event that it does crap out in 2024 and we haven't purchased one, then we're without one, and then we've already started that process, so we're without a ladder truck for, at that point, 2.5 years.
Right, I understand. Thank you.
It's not like a dealership you can go to just pull one off the lot.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So, you know, periodically, you guys read the papers, you hear the same things we hear. So there have been governors and others that have talked about, you know, the problem with small municipalities in New Jersey is we can't afford everything we want to do. So when you start talking about, you know, volunteer fire departments or paid fire departments, the equipment's very expensive. And so let's say if a municipality can't afford a ladder truck when it needs one, you know, is there any discussion among fire departments about sharing equipment like this? Let's say we're a town of 10,000 people, 2 square miles, we have a ladder truck. The town next to us, 10,000 people, 2 square miles, has a ladder truck. But there's a town with 20,000 people, that's 5 square miles, that has a ladder truck. Why can't 2 towns share a ladder truck? Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's been a debate probably for 10, 20 years. So it just gets louder when trucks like this start to cost $2 million.
Yeah, no, for sure. One thing, again, we are volunteer. So trying to count on somebody else other than ourselves is a pretty large gamble. When you have less vehicles in the area, there's a better chance that both of them are being utilized at the same time when you need it. I mean, I wouldn't want to be my house burning down and say we're relying on Whitehall. They happen to be on a call. Then it's not there. So then what are you doing?
Or vice versa, it's in our town.
It's in our town.
They have something
They
going
need
on
it.
in their town, they need it.
It boils down to response time is what it boils down to. I mean, the residents pay a decent amount of taxes in this area, and that's what they expect, is that a fast and timely response. Unfortunately, that's usually the argument.
So I think Don raises a good point. So is there a standard for how many ladder trucks you need per square mile in a borough?
Not that I'm aware of.
Do you know how many fire towns around here have actual fire trucks?
Every town has
Ladder
a
truck,
fire
not fire truck. Wow.
Every town has a ladder truck, but if ours goes down and we don't have one, and say our neighboring towns, like if Whitecroft's is broken, Allendale's is broken, and Hocus, it can happen. Now you're out ladder trucks from all over the place, so then we don't have anything. Even the other towns and everything don't have it and everything, where, you know, we would have to rely on them to be able to come in, and they just turn around, chief, sorry, our ladder truck's out of service, or, you know, vice versa, you know, ours is out. You know, so if we, you know, are in trouble, and then we're not able to utilize ladder trucks and everything, you know, it's time on our hands and everything that we're trying to get people out of their houses, up on the 2nd floor, 3rd floor, to try to, you know, get people out of their buildings and out of their houses and everything. So by waiting for another ladder truck from another town or areas out of our area here, yeah, it's time consuming and everything. So, you know, fire grows every 60 seconds, and without certain pieces of equipment, it makes our job a little harder.
So, just to put it in perspective, we are volunteers. We respond from our homes, so we're not at the firehouse. So when that call comes in, however long that's been burning, we're already behind the 8 ball. takes us usually 4 minutes to get in service. That's in town here. Where everybody else is probably 15 minutes out because they have to respond to their firehouse and they have to go get their truck to come down. So it's a pretty significant time difference and life hazard on ourselves and the potential victims that might be from a fire standpoint or a rescue standpoint for that matter.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. You know, I think about, you know, like for instance, we have one ladder truck, so it's on the other side of town. Firehouse 2, is that what you said? So I live on the other side of town, and the Ho-Hocus truck's probably closer to my house than our truck. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, at some point, and it's not just fire trucks, I think it's a lot of things we buy that at some point it's going to be cost prohibitive for us to continue to do it. And we've got to figure out better ways. So I don't know if it's the ladder truck, I don't know if it's other trucks, I don't know if it's an ambulance, but you know, it's just difficult to continue to buy everything we want and need.
Sorry to keep talking. I appreciate what you just said in all your statements because you certainly made me think of things differently, so I thank you for that. Following up to Don's point, though, I know that you guys fundraise. I don't know how much you take in. Is there a way that you would be able to help offset the cost of this with your fundraising? Or is that an out-of-line question? Like, I don't know if that is ever thought of or what you use that fundraising money for. I don't know. But would that be something you would be consider doing? And it's just a question. I'm not demanding anything.
I don't think that much money comes in from fundraising.
Okay. 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 Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you.
I know the truck is utilized for everything, not just ladder. Can you tell us generally how many times you might have been at a call in average in a year, just an average in a year, that the ladder truck is actually used for a ladder truck as opposed to everything else? I know it's used. It's also, you have the rescue truck. Use it kind of like a rescue truck as well. You send it out as well. Can you figure out? Can you tell us generally how many average time you might have used it in a year where you actually put it up and used it for basically structure fires? Is what we use it for. Am I correct in saying structure fires?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say you're not using it to save cats or anything.
Anytime you really get to an elevated position, if somebody smells something weird burning in a commercial building and you have to get to go to the rooftop, check out the rooftop HVAC systems, we're using that truck for that. That truck also does carry a lot of extra rescue equipment where our rescue truck is out of service, getting, out of town, getting service for a long period of time. The tower ladder takes over that purpose. So it's not just used for structure fires, it's a ladder. So I don't have the exact number of how often it's actually gone up as a ladder truck, but
Well, I was just looking for average pricing for it. I'm going to go again to Matt and said, Matt, you got 3 years of putting this thing there. Is there going to be is there anything that we can get from grants to help us get this as well?
There's the Assistance for Firefighter Grant, which is annual. Our biggest impairment to that is our call volume. When you look at the list, and the awards are always public of who's getting, six-figure donation awards for apparatuses, they are larger cities and municipalities. I mean, I've gone through the workshops, I've gone to the webinars, and they straight up tell you that 60% of your applications are not even seen by people because of the call volume. If we apply for that grant, in my opinion, if we ever have a chance of success, it's going to be with the smaller categories. I don't like saying that it's wishful thinking that we're going to get awarded that, but that's my honest opinion, unfortunately.
That's what we're looking for.
So my question might require a little homework. You might not be able to answer right now, but I want to help you guys get the truck. Obviously, I appreciate all the hard work and research you guys have put into it, and I enjoyed meeting with you guys and the salesperson. But is there anything that we could do to the specs to modify or reduce anything to just save money? Like, is there something here that maybe we don't need this, 5-piece thing, and we can get a 3-piece, and that would be sufficient? I don't need an answer now. I just think maybe we could do a little bit of a deeper dive and maybe come back and see if that would help.
Yeah, so we've actually already done that. Again, on previous purchase, we usually prepay the chassis and the aerial when we do buy that. That's a cost savings right off the bat just for putting the money up front. The smaller motor is a pretty considerable cost savings that we've already realized that we don't need a 605 horsepower motor. We can get by with a 525. We don't have that many large sustained inclines that we need the 605 to get up the hill. The smaller generator is another cost savings for us. Stuff doesn't draw as much as it used to, so we don't need the 10K, we can go with the 6K. And then again, just trying to repurpose everything that we have on our current ladder truck. It's not a number that is realized, but all that equipment that's currently on there is probably in excess of $100,000. Between saws, rope, SCBA's, radios. I mean, you guys just did the radio project a couple years ago. You know what radios cost. So that's quite a considerable amount of savings that have already taken place. Unfortunately, the price of the truck is the price of the truck. It's the price of steel. It's the price of the motor, the rear ends. There's really nothing that we can do to reduce the price of steel or the actual truck itself. Minus those smaller considerations that we've taken into account for the borough.
Are there,
That's okay, that's fine.
Okay, yeah.
I was gonna ask, are there like certified pre-owned trucks you can look at?
No, ladder trucks, the fire engines and everything are all custom made to the fire departments. There aren't ones that you could just go on a lot and just go purchase. They have to be built to within the specifications of that department and that department's needs and everything for it. It's not like going to the car dealership, I could pick that off. They don't have them, because everything has to be built and, put together to the specs of each, municipality. Like our town, we have certain specifications that we try to do and everything to build fire trucks for the town and everything. So that's the way that fire trucks are built.
If you were to purchase one from somebody else, again, you inherit their problems. I welcome you to talk to the Borough of Allendale. They just explored that, and they are, for lack of term, blowing their brains out dealing with that truck. They've already, to my knowledge, spent almost $70,000 on the hydraulics. All their hoses are dry rotted, and surprisingly, they bought the same exact truck that we currently have. So that is another reason why we're approaching to replace this truck, because of issues we've seen on previous trucks that are similar to ours. Again, it's like buying a used car. You don't know if that person beat on it or they drove it to church and back. You get whatever it might be, but there's a lot of unknowns that you take on as a risk buying something that's older. And then again, it only has a serviceable life, so essentially you're just kicking the can down the road. That graph I showed you, the price continually goes up. You've seen in past budgets, we've put numbers to it. You can see that it's going to continually climb. Unfortunately, it doesn't go down.
If we agree to the purchase of the truck and we sign the contract, do we lock in that price
Yes.
till delivery, so it can't
Yeah.
continue
Yeah,
to go
Pierce-
up in
Pierce
price?
Honors- Yes.
Till delivery, so it can't
Yeah.
continue
Yeah,
to go up in
Pierce
price?
honors their pricing regardless of what the price of steel does. They're
Okay.
not gonna, once you sign the, what is it, Patrick, letter of intent, I guess?
Yeah.
Put it there?
We'll give them a purchase order.
Yeah, you give them a purchase order, that locks in the price. So if steel happens to skyrocket next year, that's the risk that the manufacturer takes upon themselves.
Okay.
They will not come back to the borough asking for more money because they're.
We asked them that question at the very beginning because we saw on the news that another vehicle manufacturer did do that,
Yeah,
and that was scary. So that was one of the questions we did ask the manufacturer, and they said as soon as we lock in the price, we get you a purchase order, that's what the price.
okay, thank you.
Just two things. You might have answered the question, but I'll ask it again. I know you said you're comfortable with the Pierce truck. Did you look at any other trucks?
Yes.
Okay, and that, you felt comfortable with the Pierce?
Correct, correct.
Okay.
When we were down at the fireman's mansion, we looked at every single thing that was there, and when we came home, and as a committee, we went to different places, and we had other apparatuses come up.
Also, if this is approved and we sign the purchase order and everything, and say something happens to the truck we have now, is PS gonna help us with a truck, or we're on our own? Say you get approved for the truck. Now PS starts working on it. They get their money down, whatever they're asking for. But now say something happens to the truck we have now, and it's out of service for a while, or it breaks down, and we, as you said, we have nobody to fix it. What do? Are we stranded without a truck, or somebody's gonna give us a truck?
Well, one, we have to talk to Pierce regarding to see if we can get moved up along the production line. Other than that, we have to look at our, other companies around us for mutual aid to assist us.
Right. 'Cause I think at one time, didn't we have the fire academy give us a truck to use?
We did. So at the one time, with the Bergen County Shared Services, we did go to the fire academy, and they did have one at the time. But to my knowledge, they do not have one.
Right, but we won't be stranded without one.
We will not leave the borough stranded without assistance.
Great, thanks.
Oh, can the ambulance corps, as you know, just purchased a brand-new ambulance that they were able to get at a reduced price because a town defaulted on the contract. Does that ever happen with fire trucks? Where there's like a website to watch or something? I don't know how they found this vehicle, but
The defaulted website.
I don't know, but it could be, worth it, like some little town defaulted on their contract and now we have this exact truck you want, but it's a cheaper price. I don't know.
We could ask the sales rep to keep an eye out for that. I haven't personally heard of that.
I could ask where they found that information, but.
Yeah, it's probably from the manufacturer itself. The only thing that I've heard of sometimes is that if somebody backs out of a truck, they haven't started building it, you can get their spot in the production line.
Oh, okay.
Again, it's kind of a little iffy, especially if you're trying to make a truck that's built for the borough. That person that you might be getting might not have that. They might be a longer truck, they might be a heavier truck, they might have a pump, they might not have a pump.
Okay.
Cab size. So there's a bunch of different variations that are taken into consideration when building a truck. That might not be a viable option.
It was through the manufacturer. They were looking around, and it just so happened they were lucky that they showed it. It was, I don't know if it was exact, it wasn't exactly what they wanted, but it actually was apparently it was a vehicle that was like top of the line vehicle that they dropped out of, and they went ahead and just took over the buying of it. They had already built the thing, and then they just didn't take the town didn't take the order of it, so they went ahead and said, "Oh, we'll take it then."
I think that's a little bit different than a fire truck, because
Yeah.
the fire truck has to be fitted to the town. What are the odds that you got a town out there that's fitted to us?
So the other trucks, I know you didn't like them, but were you able to get prices just so we can compare?
We didn't really honestly explore prices too much because they didn't fit in the town. I mean, the one truck that we brought in from the other manufacturer, we couldn't even get it behind its limit in town, it just didn't fit.
Or allow it to get through a cul-de-sac
Yeah, it's.
without K-turning back and forth.
You go to the one sheet we gave you up there, with all the other manufacturers, they didn't have power ladders on 100 feet. They're all pushing 50 feet. Our current truck is 46 feet, and the Pierce is 43. Didn't really feel the need to waste any other sales reps' times to get a price on a truck that, if we got, wouldn't work. I mean, I do know there's another municipality in the area who's also spec'ing out a new truck right now. Again, it's a truck that's just not gonna really work for us, but they're upwards of $2.5 million on theirs.
Which is a lot more than the first.
But yeah, I mean, the other trucks, basically every manufacturer doesn't really offer anything that's gonna work for our town. Hate to spend that kind of money and then not be able to use it.
Anyone else?
One more question.
Sure.
Does this have a pump on it and a tank?
Does not.
No, no
You have
pump.
you have to be assisted by a pumper.
Right.
Cost savings. And because of that, it's shorter,
Yeah.
where it would pump on it.
It would have a tank on it. You'd have-
Correct, and it would be longer.
It may be longer.
I'm gonna ask a stupid question. It's gonna fit in the firehouse, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's room to spare.
The other fire departments that came down, we put their fire trucks into the firehouse, and it was very tight. So if we went, we had gotten a longer fire truck, we'd be having a problem trying to get it parked in the Company 2 firehouse and everything. So,
And those trucks that we looked at were larger than we looked at.
Question. Before I forget to ask this, I don't want to end up in a situation where we kick the can down the road and then we have to replace 3 trucks in 1 year, right? Do you guys know approximately when the other trucks will be coming due for a replacement?
So the other engine at Company 2 is currently a 95. The only reason that we've just elected to try to go for the tower ladder first is because that engine is a Spartan, and they still are in business, and they're still able to find parts. We can still make that a usable piece for the town. This one's a 2001.
We also have that in the projected budget that we submitted this year.
We try to space it out as best we can. I mean, you see all our trucks in town, we try to keep them as best we can, take care of them as best we can. Actually, when this one, if we did get this one and to get delivered, that engine we speak about is gonna be probably over 30 years old at that point.
And when will this be available if we order it again?
Right now, they're at lead time of 32 months,
Thirty.
so assuming May 23, we would probably see it January of 26.
Okay.
Maybe a little earlier. It all depends on what the supply of material is. If for some reason they start getting better, it might be expedited. If it gets worse, it might be longer.
Okay.
They're at the mercy of their suppliers and engine manufacturers, rear end, steel, stuff like that. I mean, God forbid we had another COVID. That's annihilated everybody's manufacturing processes. So it's hard to tell. But currently, right now, it's 32 months.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, thank you very much for coming here and explaining everything to us. Patrick will let us, Patrick will constantly be in contact with you on everything.
Thank you
And
very
if
much.
you have any,
This opportunity.
and if you have any questions for us, just let us know.
thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break.
Not yet.
Okay, we're on.
Okay, Patrick, do you want to continue the budget process here tonight?
I do. Thank you, Mayor and Council. All right, so we'll start at the top here under administration. And actually, to give you a bit high level before we start. So looking over previous years and kind of what our trends are and hoping to keep our debt each year consistent, our goal is usually between 1.2 and 1.4 million dollars of new debt each year. So that is approved borrowing less any offsets from grants, open space, capital improvement fund, fully funded ordinances, and our 5% down. So when you take all those things out, we're looking for somewhere between 1.2, 1.4. Now, that's going to increase each year as things get more expensive, but that's kind of where our trend is right now. Some years we've been, over $2 million, and some years we have been, under or at $1 million. So it can really fluctuate. This year, right now, what is in the proposed budget that you see in front of you, so everything tabulated from column E, less any grant and other funding offsets, is $3.9 million of new net indebtedness. So we're obviously well above that. The biggest driver of that, obviously, the fire truck. So you have to understand that in the year that you choose to fund the fire truck, we're gonna start over that goal of 1.2 to 1.4 million dollars. So let's go to the top. Improvements to Hudson Ave, west of Route 17. So this is, you'll see the total cost for the project, $276,000 there. This is a project that we applied to the DOT for funding on. We received $112,840 towards this project. So this is the segment from cul-de-sac to cul-de-sac on Hudson Ave. There's two sections of Hudson Ave, so this is the one on the west side of Route 17. We don't have too much to go through here, so I would say at each item or maybe by each department, just stop and ask questions then, and we can take them at the end as well, but feel free to jump in. The next one is improvement to Bonner Place. This is $200,000. This is paving from Hopper Ave all the way to Zezzetti Street. This is a CDBG grant program. They'll reimburse just over half the cost of this, $101,000. So we are fortunate in that the CDBG program allows us to pave in certain census tracts in town. The area that this is in, we're allowed to pave there. You're not always allowed to pave. Like, not every census tract in town is eligible for paving. So we want to make sure that when we're eligible in these areas, that we spend the money on paving in those areas as opposed to other types of eligible improvements for CDBG, like curbing improvements or general community improvements. And so we've done this the last couple of years. This is what we did Frederick Street with, and we did Houston Ave with this past year. So again, improvements to Bonner Place CDBG program. The next one is the Brookview Park Bridge. So this is to add a bridge off of Malcolm Street to access the 12-plus acre Green Acres area that we have. It had been identified as great park space that had very limited access because the only access currently is through HCA Park. There's no off-street parking there. There's reduced signage because it's through HCA Park, and the majority of the public don't know that it's available. So we had talked about this the last 2 years, where we have an opportunity at the Malcolm Street pump station, which we have for water and sewer. It has a relatively large parking area. It has a little stream that cuts that parking area off from this 12-plus acre Green Acres parcel. So part of it is practical in that we could link up this park space with off-street parking, and the other part is just it helps develop some trail network in the area. We had the Eagle Scout who started a trail network in the area behind the HCA. We know there's another Eagle Scout project that is looking to expand that. So beyond just the improvements logistically for parking, I think just there's an aesthetic piece to this, and there's also the creation of this trail network in that 12-plus acre area that this bridge will help us. So that's $150,000. 75,000 of that is from Bergen County Open Space. We have a match there with Bergen County Open Space. So if we spend, if overall the project's less, our match will be less, and Bergen County will reimburse less. I think we'll come in less than this $150,000. There's a lot of permitting for anything that's done back there, but we think that the actual construction of the bridge is $60,000, some soft cost $40,000. So hopefully, in reality, we're around $100,000 on that project. Yes.
You're saying that's a
Can you
50%
speak into the mic?
That's a 50% match.
Yes.
So if we spend 100,000, they'd give us 50. It's not
Yeah.
100 and they give us 75.
That's right, and the actual grant award for this was greater, so the award was actually $118,000. We didn't request that much money, but kind of how some of that funding works is so many municipalities put in, and they just, they divide it, by however many municipalities are in there. They don't always get the same amount of funding each year, so there must have been a little more funding or fewer municipalities applying for funding, so we just got a greater piece of the pie. But no, I don't expect that we would use all of it. And because we have this 50% match, it's not like we're going to go around looking for extra things to do, because we got to pay for half of it. So we're only really doing the stuff that makes sense.
Did we plan on this year not, because I know we talked about replacing the playground at Borough Park. Didn't we?
So that is the 2023 Bergen County Open Space application to replace Lions Playground in Borough Park.
We can't use, you said, what do we have, 25, 35, 45, 40?
No, they're discrete projects.
Oh, discrete.
Yeah, so they're two separate grant applications. That's not to say that, let's say we were to, that certain details of this project, should they change, that they wouldn't fund them. I mean, they probably would if we said, well, we wanted to put the bridge here, but now we're looking to do like a trail network over here, and it's going to be the same overall benefit to the area and the same goal. The county may be receptive to that, but I think to say we were going to do a trail network on this side of town, and now we're going to do a playground on that side of town, I don't expect that they would be receptive to that. Doesn't mean we can't ask if that's a direction that the mayor and council feel strongly for, but I don't expect that that's a direction that the county would allow us to go in.
So you have down 75,000 from Bergen County Open Space and the other 75 coming from our open space?
That's right. Yeah, we have to put up a match. We collect open space money by through a tax, and so it's kind of, it's a good use for that open space. We generate about $80,000 a year from our open space tax. The next item, EV charging stations. This is another grant that we had applied for through the DEP and through PSE&G. So the total cost of the project, $255,000. The grant amount we received is $125,000. This would be to add 2 charging stations here at Borough Hall in the parking lot, somewhere towards the police department, probably just short of where they have their canopies now. It's interesting because it's not a need I think we have today, but I think long-term it's a need that we anticipate having, both for ourselves but also to serve the greater community here. And so if we can get grant money today to help defer or offset a cost that we expect to have in the future, it may be wise. Go on.
That's, go ahead.
Is the charging station a mandatory item
It's
that all
not-
boroughs have to have?
It's
It
not a
is.
mandatory item, no.
I
No.
thought
They-
it's a mandatory next 3 years or something like that.
There is now a and Matt can speak to it maybe a little bit.
It will be mandatory to put in a charging station in the new parking lot, but it doesn't have to be DCFC. Put in a level 2 charger in that station. This charging station also, over the long term, will be a revenue generator as well. I have projections we'd like to share. They're from the manufacturer, so they may be generous of what they feel we would earn, but their projections are within 5 years you would make back the difference that we're paying. But to answer the specific question of, does this charger station need to be there? It does not, but there does have to be a charging station put into the new lot. I'm not sure the designated amount of time, but that does have to be.
Yeah.
It's required to be put in there, and I think you have to at least, if if you're building it, you at least have to put the conduits in there for it to be put there, but you don't necessarily have to buy the, right now, buy the station, per se. We're gonna get this station, but
And if you did buy
you
a
have to at
station,
least put
it
the,
didn't have to be the DCFC. A DCFC will charge a vehicle in 15 to 30 minutes. So if you have someone driving from point A to point B, on the network, they'll see that, and they might come and they'll pay for it, versus a level 2 charges your vehicle overnight very slowly. That's what more residential consumers have in their houses, that, because they don't need necessarily the super fast charge immediately.
and part of that price is also the upgrading of the, because to get that, you have to have higher electricity output from the building.
Correct.
Because it's not just, they're 120, it's, is it 220 or is it 440? Mark might know.
I can tell you that it's not electric that we were able to supply from the building, so we've already met with PSE&G. The plan is to pull it off of a pole here on Dora Ave.
Right.
So we'll bring it in from the rear of the parking lot.
Yeah, I didn't think we had it.
Yeah, we'll drop like the heavy equipment right behind the dumpster pen that we installed with the new parking lot, and then it'll run over to charging stations right at the curb edge.
So we're getting 125 and we're paying 130 this year?
Yes. Well, yes, yeah, the total cost is 255, 125 from the grant, 120, and 130 from us.
And Matt, you said we'll make that back?
Their projections, I mean, they gave a range. They thought within about 5 years you would make in revenue the cost of the 130. That's their projections. Based on what he's saying, I tended to agree with him, but again, he's also putting into the future as more EVs become more as future years go on. He expected that the revenue would increase over time, and we would be one of the first to have this type of station in New Jersey. The state's trying every year to put about 30 to 50 of these in place over the next 5 years to meet Governor Murphy's goal. And like I said, in Bergen County, we would be one of the first municipalities to have this if you choose to fund it.
The way that they choose that goes, apparently they also choose a particular town. They do a rating system of each particular town, and you get a certain amount of rate points for
Correct.
type of town. And
The Borough of Warwick, our location was about an 8.6 out of 10 on their scale, which was on the very high end because they're looking for areas that are close to restaurants, municipal facilities, East Prospect, right by the library, right by restaurants. That gave it high, close to Route 17. So in terms of what the state was looking for, we met the criteria, which helped us get the $75,000 award.
The next item, various IT telecom equipment. We have 16 computers in the borough that are 6 years or older, and 18 that are over 5 years. So we may not use all of this, or we likely won't use all of this year, but we know that for those computers 6 years and older, we're going to start replacing those proactively, and we know, what's not spent this year will be spent in subsequent years. Wallvac bathroom and kitchen, $60,000. So the bathroom and kitchen at the ambulance corps building are, from what I understand, original to that building.
Upstairs or
and
downstairs?
Downstairs. So this is specifically for the ambulance corps. And the ambulance corps had requested last year for assistance in this. So we're looking at about $35,000 for both bathrooms. That's together, $35,000 gutted, so new fixtures, new ceiling, tile floor and walls, and then $10,000 for the kitchen. That's a little more straightforward, replacing the cabinetry, replacing the floors. I'll get you some pictures of what they have existing. It is in need of replacement.
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
the question is,
60.
you can speak to it then. Yeah, I mean, I guess you and Councilman Schatz can speak to the current condition.
It's probably from the 60s or 70s. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the way it looks.
Yeah.
And they can't open the doors, they can't close the doors on the bathrooms. The piping just broke the other day, during the year,
Yep.
6 months ago, so in the bathroom.
Yeah, they're in rough shape.
They're-
The next item, Lucas chest compression machines. So these are machines that would perform CPR on individuals. And so instead of having a member of Wallvac doing the chest compressions, you leave it to a machine, more accurate, greater likelihood of success from it, able to do it for longer periods of time. And so they had asked for 2 of these originally, but they understand that, one, they'd also asked for bathrooms, and 2, that we're under some constraints with our capital budget this year. And so they had offered to fund one of them they're on their own, and had asked that we purchase the other one. So this would make sure that they have one of these machines for each of their vehicles. Yep.
So the 16,550 is for one or for two? Is
One.
for one?
Yep.
Okay.
And they're gonna match.
And they'll fund the other one themselves. Yeah, so they'll own one and we'll own one in essence.
Good.
And I met with the ambulance corps, and they explained to me that if a patient is requiring CPR, and they're manually doing it, they can't be moving that patient forward. They have to stay and do the chest compressions, where if they have this machine, they put it on the person and they can continue on to the hospital, on to loading the person, and the chances of saving their lives is much greater. So,
The next are automatic external defibrillators. Those are $8,400. That would purchase 3 of them, one for Borough Hall, one for DPW, and one for the senior center. We currently do not have AEDs in any of those locations. So we would get the cabinets that hang in the hallways that you could open up and take the AED out of the inside.
There's no grants for that?
I was about to say, I did recently just apply for a grant. There's a couple others, so I am hoping to get, if not all, the majority of this cost paid for by a grant. That is my hope, to be able to get.
Great,
Done.
Yeah, yeah. And the ambulance corps helps with the maintenance of our AEDs. And we have AEDs at the police department, we have AEDs at the pool, so it's something that we're generally used to. Keeping the fire department, one at the library. So, we can certainly get on that schedule.
We were lucky. We had the Bishop Foundation donate a lot of them.
Yeah, and they did to our to the pool. I know they donated the ones in use there. Our capital ordinances are written in such a way where when we pass the ordinance, we don't know that we're going to receive grant funding, we can still take that grant funding in, and it would just offset any appropriation that the council had already made.
They're not required, correct? We just, it'd be
No,
prudent to get.
just a best practice say. Yeah. The next item is for park space acquisition.
You too.
What's that? All good? So for park space acquisition, this is for a residential property near HCA and may aid in any future expansions we're interested to do in the area. We had been in discussion with the family of the property owner, and there's a general understanding that they would be willing sellers to us. Kelly and I had spoke with Bergen County Open Space. They have a park space acquisition program and we actually met with the director, let's say, of the program. I don't know his exact title, but we met with the director of the program actually at the space. We walked through this property, through HCA back to where we have our 12-acre park, and back to the Hohokus, or the Saddle River there. And he feels that any future park space acquisition expansion that we do in the area would be well received by Bergen County. The borough is eligible to submit 2 park space acquisition grants each year. The county doesn't have a set match amount. They like to see a match. He said that they typically see matches come between 30 and 10%. So if it's $400,000, I think we would probably apply for we put in 15%, they fund 85%, and this includes that we would put 25% just in case we don't get fully funded. But this would be for park space acquisition. The actual grant application for this would be due in May, and they wouldn't decide until April. Speaking with the family of the property owner, There's an expectation that this moves a little quicker than that. The county is open to a reimbursement grant. They say they don't really care when you acquired the property because they're only going to pay you back after you acquire it anyway. So whether or not we acquire it prior to the application or post-application doesn't make a difference to them. But, through this capital discussion and potentially, in future resolutions, we would look to see if the council would support an endeavor to increase park space in that area.
This is the park. This is near HCA. This was in conjunction with some ongoing discussions with HCA too, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they're ongoing discussions now. I had approached HCA at some point and asked them that if they were ever interested in selling, that they let us know. We haven't, at that point, that they were not interested in selling, and the conversations haven't been restarted since then. I know that they're waiting on for me and our engineer to get them some information on the water main project. I wanted to get that to them first before continuing the conversation. But yeah, I think that should the mayor and council support the general direction, that we would reapproach not just HCA, but I think anybody who's part of the association, so not just the board, but the community at large, and see if it is something that they're interested. And the overall idea would be that with borough resources, and especially with the type of funding that's available through Bergen County Open Space, that the borough make a commitment to improving the park space in that area for the benefit of all the residents in the borough.
And this property was meant to widen the drive, right, back into HCA? if I'm not
That's right.
mistaken.
I think in looking at the concept of increasing park space in the area, what we didn't want and what we didn't think would be well received by residents in the area would be a dramatic increase in on-street parking there, right? So if you say, we're going to do more with the park and hopefully have it programmed better, that there may be some greater vehicle traffic. So what we'd want to do is create more off-street parking. The access to the parkway is so small that it wouldn't enable any off-street parking as it is set up currently. This property is immediately adjacent to the park entrance and would allow us either off-street parking directly on this site or maybe on the in the park space in general. This is very preliminary, so this is just maybe the first discussion that the mayor and council have had as a whole body to I guess, to discuss if this is a direction you want to go in, and if it is, we should begin to engage HCA Park. The Bergen County Open Space likes to see a willing seller and a willing buyer, so it's something that we want to become partners with HCA on. All right. We have items for next year, and some of these we push off year to year. Roof of the administration building, roof of the public safety building. Obviously, those two built around the same time have roofing shingles that are about the same age. Inflow and infiltration. We know that the borough has a high level of inflow and infiltration. If you looked at the North Bergen County Utilities Authority rate study that was circulated yesterday, you'd see that we have the second highest I&I rate of anybody that contributes to BCUA. So I&I is groundwater that is entering into our sewer system. The first thing that needs to be done is that we TV the sewer system itself to identify areas that require, maybe it's repair, maybe it's a relining of those pipes, and so we have money already dedicated to that from previous year capital budgets, and we have requested of the sewer authority to do that TVing. It's something that our DPW superintendent had requested last year. We're just trying to get on the schedule to get that done, and hopefully once that's done, then we can schedule some capital repairs. And Borough Hall sprinkler improvements. As a result of the leak that we had here last year, and I guess the sprinkler failure, there were some recommendations made. It still remains to be seen if and when they will be made. So it's nothing I that any of our professionals are recommending we do this year. But, we may see, we'll do some more proactive maintenance of the system, and if we identify additional problems, we may decide to make more sprinkler improvements. Going into DPW, first item is something we have each year, road resurfacing. So I will, after the meeting, as long as this is a number you're generally on board with, I'll circulate the roads we're looking to improve, but I'll read them out to you now. So this would have us repave White Pond Road with the cul-de-sac, Lillian Street, Summit Ave from Nordum to Route 17, and Manhattan Ave from Nordum to Ridge. And in conjunction with that, we would upgrade the curb ramps on those roads where necessary to maintain ADA compliance. So we've got 2 curb ramps on Whites Pond Road, 2 on Lillian, 9 on Summit, and 4 on Manhattan. If you're interested in, and that total, what we expect for that program is just at $400,000. If you're looking to understand the next roads in the that were identified as in need of repaving, but that did not make this year's list, Garibaldi Place, Chopek Lane, the pool office parking lot, and the bike path at Veterans or at Borough Park. All those were identified by DPW as in need of repaving. I'll circulate that full list, what made it and what didn't, so you can look at each road segment and see if you concur with the assessment and with what we can use in this year's budget. For the first time this year, we looked at from a larger perspective, how many feet of road we have in the borough, how often we need to replace each roadway, and what does that mean that we would need to replace on an annual basis. So Matt had done the painstaking task of, on Google Earth, dragging and dropping to get an idea of total length. So we have 160,000 feet of municipal roadways in the borough, so that takes out all the county roadways. And then we figure with a 20-year life expectancy approximately of a roadway, you would expect that we have to repave just over 8,000 feet of roadway each year. So what we currently have scheduled is just over that, 8,726 feet of roadway. That's both through the municipal paving program, CDBG, and the DOT program.
Question?
Yes.
Weren't we talking at one of the most recent meetings about those roads where PSE&G is ripping them up and then they're paying us money and then we were going to pave them in the next 2 years or something like that?
Yeah.
So are they just not on the list, or?
They'll be on next year's list. So those
Okay.
roadways are Durante, Elm, Lotus, and Sycamore. And we've agreed to an amount with PSE&G. We actually just submitted them a bill. They'll give us money this year. We'll put it into escrow. We'll repave next year. The DPW superintendent looked at those trenches from PSE&G, and they're actually in pretty good shape right now. They're going to settle over time, so they're not always going to be in great shape. But they did some pretty deep excavation and through long trenches. So the more time we give them to settle, the better final paving is going to be. So they recommended that we redo that paving next year. And PSE&G is on board with that. And in the meantime, they'll maintain those trenches. So they start to break apart, we get potholes there. PSE&G will come back in to repair those. And it's not, they're not going to, they fund from curb line to center, and then our match for the process will be from the other side of the road, from the curb line to the other, to the center road. All right. Yep. All right. ADA ramps. So this is for those ADA ramps we just discussed. We've got some money remaining in previous years that we'll also commit to this. Stormwater repairs and thermoplastic striping, both of those items we have, they're annually that we fund them, but we have money unspent from previous years that will cover this year's need. Thermoplastic striping, that goes in conjunction with our road resurfacing. Oh, I'm sorry, I lumped the wrong ones together. Traffic devices and stormwater repairs is what we have money from previous years. Thermoplastic striping, we don't. We're requesting $15,000, and that's typical. It goes along with resurfacing both the roads that we repave this year under the municipal program and areas of town that require striping, not including county roads. Because I know that's always a concern of the council and of our residents. You know, the county roads are striped or not striped by the county. These are for municipal roads. Malcolm Street pump control. So at the Malcolm Street pump station, we have submersible sewer pumps there that pump into a force main. We have 3 pumps total, and one of them is a spare. So we've got 2 in the hole, and 1 is a spare. The past few years, we're continually rebuilding our pumps, and we've been to the point where we're repairing 2 at one time, and we only have 1 in the hole with no backup. And that's a real concern for our DPW. This is unfortunately a very urgent need to have these repaired. We'll make upgrades at that time too in terms of the types of pumps that we put in there and the type of redundancy that we have. So it'll be an improvement, but we're not doing it just to improve the situation. We're in a dire situation there with our sewer pumps. Pool concrete repair. At our municipal pool, we have to do not serious but necessary repairs specifically to the joints in the bottom of the pool and areas in the walls where there's cracks or spalling. You want to maintain those joints and cracks for the overall integrity of the pool, but also more immediate and practically speaking, we lose water through those cracks, a lot of water through those cracks. Colleen will tell you. And so with water also goes some of our resources, chlorine and things, right? And so it's important that we make these repairs. We had someone in last year that gave us some quotes. We're going to try to buy some materials ourselves, do some work ourselves, have them do a little bit. But overall, we think between the joint repair, crack repair, and painting, it'll be about $55,000. This is money that we are looking to fund in capital improvement for the sole purpose of getting it done sooner. Bond money takes longer. We've got to wait 20-day estoppel period. For the capital improvement fund, we can actually do it as long as the mayor and council agree. We can do that before we adopt the final budget by putting it in our temporary appropriations in the capital improvement fund. So that's necessary because the window on pool repairs is from maybe mid-March to mid-May, probably early May. So you got about 6 weeks there to do your pool repair, and we want to make sure we have the funding available to do that. Electrical upgrades at Borough Park. It was at the Winter Fest that we realized, and I guess through some of the summer concerts, that we would be well served to have better lighting in Borough Park, both in terms of flood lighting for the overall park area, especially where we have events and concerts, but also in the pavilion. Right now it's wired to shut off basically at dusk, and it'll only run for 30 minutes after that. And so, as we have more events over there, and they're well received, we want to make sure we have appropriate accommodations there. Next item, big one, sewer truck. So this is for sewer pumping and vacuum jetting. You'll see this around town. It is used a lot by the sewer department, the road department before the sewers. The truck itself is, the chassis of it is in good shape, but it's the back of it is what we need. That is worn out. And so the whole truck is $600,000 to replace. We're just looking to replace the back. That's $485,000. So save us a little over $100,000. Maybe at some point in the future, the chassis has to be replaced too. We'll take this back and put it onto a new chassis.
Can I just talk about that?
Yeah, please.
Last Friday, I went down to the DVW and I met with Mike, and also I met with Anthony Paris, and they showed me the truck. It's a 2007, and it's really in bad shape. I mean, they literally have duct tape and silicone holding everything together. So, I mean, it's something that they really need. And, you know, I just, you know, everybody wants this, wants and needs, but when you see the truck, I even have pictures, I showed, you know, Councilman Ritchie, the pictures, it's really falling apart. It's really bad. And you know, they use it for a lot of things, and, you know, it comes, you know, holds 1,200 gallons. I mean, it does a lot of work in the community.
So this
Yeah,
is
so-
used to clean our pump houses and our storm drains? Is that,
Depending on use, yeah, you can jet out storm drains with this, you can jet out sewer drains with it, you can pump out any ore with this, yeah, either or.
Was this on the list last year?
It was, I'm not certain.
See, the whole truck, to get the whole truck, is $585. They said the other part is in good condition. And they said that they know how to operate that, the part they want to keep. So they said, you know, we'll settle for the lesser of the amount and the more of the amount. And that way, they, you know, they could still continue to do all the service that they do at the town. I think he said it was in the budget last year. I'm not sure. And I think we took it out. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Is it usable?
Now it is, but it's falling apart, literally falling apart. Mike, you wanna?
Yeah, so we had, it was,
Second time. Oh, I'm done.
it was in last year. At that point, they had estimated it would be $400,000, and it was in the 2024 estimated budget.
Mike, you can talk now.
I think what they're afraid of is the tank's gonna fail, and if it does, you have a big mess on your hands, literally. So, it's really wearing out in certain areas, and as the mayor said, duct tape is a wonderful resource, but it can only do so much, and when you put so much sewage into that tank, anyway, it could be a real problem.
The next item, $6,500 for a platform roll-off salter. This isn't the salter itself. For our roll-off trucks, which are bigger trucks that we use for salting, we put a metal platform on the back of the roll-off, and then the salter sits on that platform. Because of the nature of the work, with as much salt as they put down, and it's corrosive, the platform itself is rusted out beyond repair. So this is just for that. You saw it as well, yeah, it's like Swiss cheese.
About that also, you saw the pictures and everything.
Yeah.
I think it's rusting away, you actually see holes, and it's really in bad shape.
Any question? And then the rest of these items were requested by DPW, except for inflow and infiltration. They were requested by DPW to be funded in this year's budget, and they were quickly pushed off to next year. Even next year is a placeholder, but these are things that they would like. They would certainly maybe improve the function there, but aren't an immediate necessity, and/or they have other equipment that they can do the job with in the meantime. Fire, we discussed the $1.9 million request for the truck. The next item, turnout gear and PPE. This is an annual request. Fortunately, this year, we will receive money from the ARP firefighter grant that Matt had worked on with the fire department, and so that'll cover the full expenditure of our PPE this year. The next one, air packs and replacement cylinders. This is a request that they have had in the budget each year for the past, I think, 4+ years. In previous years, it was for $75,000. This is the final year of the program. It will have replaced all of their air packs and cylinders and brought them all up to code. And so just because of that, they put in, instead of $75,000, put in for the full 90, so they'll finish up this year. That was always the plan. In previous year capital budgets, you had seen that $90,000 request move across as we got closer. F4, this is knockbox. Knockbox are those black boxes usually that you see on the outside of commercial buildings that the fire department has access to and that have keys to the building. So off hours when no one else is present, the fire department is still able to gain access without breaking through a window or a door. We have most commercial space in the borough has these. We have them now on our borough buildings. And the fire department has keys to all of these. As you can imagine, those keys are sensitive because purchasing devices to put, the keys are stored right now in each of the fire trucks and in the fire prevention vehicle. This would go towards purchasing a system to be physically installed in each of those vehicles, and it's it's basically a little lockbox with a key code on the top. You put in your code, you can open it up, and you can get the keys out. When you put your code in, it registers who's putting the code in, where you are, and how long you have access to the key for. So that way, it's key control. That way you understand what firefighter is gaining access, where they are, and for how long they have access to that key. And the last item there, pagers. This is an annual request that they have. This replaces pagers that are provided to members of the fire department. They had also requested this year a shed, small amount, $6,500, but one of those things where, given the other constraints of the budget, made sense to push off.
Did they get the boat last year?
They did not
No?
get the boat last year or
And
the year
it
before.
suddenly disappeared? Is it here?
They have not requested the boat
Oh, must have been a
since
real need
since
for it
last
then.
year.
Okay.
All right, and then we move down to
The truck goes in the water. That's-
police vehicles. We have one vehicle for patrol. Our system is, with police vehicles, is typically to replace 2 vehicles 1 year, then 1 the next, 2 vehicles, 1, we go on and off and on and off. So this is a year when we are looking to replace 1 vehicle. It's normally included in the operating budget, but to help us get underneath the appropriations cap, we move that item from operations to capital. So that's $57,000 for they're just going to get another of what they've typically been getting, which for the previous 3 purchases are Ford Interceptor SUVs. So that it's a Ford Explorer. And then you have the OEM vehicle, $65,000. We do have money in our trust from outside duty for vehicles that was brought up in a previous meeting. We do have enough money in there to fund both of these vehicles if you're looking to move those off the line. And that's the capital budget. Yeah, and we'll go down. I'll just, there's not much more here, but just all the subtotals on the bottom. So you got your subtotals of the request. You've got all the grant offsets. Capital Improvement Fund appropriation, $187,000. That obviously, if we're using less of that, what's that? Oh, I'm sorry, $99,000. That's money that can become immediately available, and we usually appropriate about that amount in the budget. The open space is all from our borough open space, both what we have from previous years, what we expect to raise this year, and some money from Ted Bell Park that we plan on canceling off this year. We haven't appropriated any money from capital surplus, but we do have in there, let's see, we've got about $275,000 there in capital surplus, should you choose to appropriate it. And then you've got your down payment, $205,000. Obviously, that's calculated on 5% of the total, so the less items we have overall in the budget, the less that 5%, that 5% number will decrease. That 5% is appropriated in our operating budget. It's outside of cap because it's in capital, but nonetheless, it affects our overall tax.
So the grant offset, does that include the park acquisition grant?
It does not. So I had put in there, let's see, so I had put in there $100,000 from our open space, the remaining $300,000 to be raised in this capital budget. But with the expectation that we would apply, if the council chooses to pursue that project, apply to open space, and we have a great likelihood of being funded through that program. So no, it could, if you want to remain hopeful, we could say that this is overall going to decrease by $300,000. And I think, since no one else is talking and we're on that topic, it makes sense to do this project only if we're interested in discussing with HCA Park Association, the overall expansion of park space in that area. You know, if the council wasn't supportive of both measures, I wouldn't recommend this measure. Kind of, they're a package deal.
We reached out to the family of the person that owns the unit, the house. Maybe we should reach out to the park now
Yeah,
to let them know what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that was the intention of just, before we do, I imagine it's something that will be debated there with the association and its members, and so before we do that, I want to make sure we have either the support of the council or decide we're going to abandon the project. If tonight you think it's at least worthwhile to pursuing with them, I mean, I would do that tomorrow, being as this is a public meeting, and, they're going to start to have that conversation anyway.
What do you think about it?
So, really interesting situation with the HCA because, there's just been this culture that it's the neighborhood owned and operated. And, when it came up to the 2022 board, they weren't interested in discussing it. But the last time we checked in with the president, he said they were going to be having their mandatory annual meeting in the first quarter of this year, and Patrick and I talked about going there and doing a more comprehensive presentation in terms of the possibilities if the borough took over. See, the way it works right now is because it's privately owned property, they pay property taxes, they purchase their own property and liability insurance, and anything that needs to be done in the park, they're responsible for. So if playground equipment needs to be replaced, they have to replace it. Every once in a while, a tree falls in the park, and I'm sorry I don't have a punchline there, but a tree falls in the park and they have to clear it away or pay to have someone else clear it away because it's private property, just like if a tree falls in your yard. So the upside to it is they do programs that they manage and control, and they have I guess all decision-making authority over the property and everything related to it, except for the easement we have to get to our pump house back there that we need to access twice a day. So the sense we get is that there'll be new officers in 2023, and that's supposed to take place at that meeting. But the last flyer we saw said that the president was vacating the position and they needed a new president. So what I told Patrick I would say is, I've been where they sit. I did it for like 15 years. And if I knew then what I know now, I'd give the park to the town in a second. Because, we spend a lot of time fundraising just to meet the basic bills, never mind making park improvements in terms of equipment. We spent 3 years fundraising to put in what was one piece in Ted Bell Park. We spent 3 years fundraising, and then we put it together ourselves because we couldn't afford to have them put it together for us. So, it's just kind of a difficult thing to do as private citizens to maintain a park.
Does the community then know about the funds that we received from us?
It has not been announced to the residents of the HCA.
I think we should speak to them before anything else.
If the mayor and council at least support
I mean, do
the
you wanna
idea
do the
generally.
project? That's the thing, too.
Yeah, do you want to do it?
What's the benefit of doing this to us, to the town? Just having
Additional
another
park space. Yeah, just additional park space.
But don't they already have a park? Right?
Well, it's private.
Yeah,
It'll be ours.
but we have to pay money.
I don't know that we would have to pay money for it. We kind of had that discussion as well. The town gave the HCA that property in the 1950s to develop a park. I'm not sure what the cost would be for the town to purchase it, what the HCA would do with the money, since they don't have a park to run.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think things to explore with HCA Park. They may be excited to relieve themselves of the burden of the park, knowing that the borough could commit additional resources to it. So, they may be open to it. If we were to acquire the park, we had it appraised last year in order to get the easement, or it might have been the year before now, in order to get the easement that we have through there for the water treatment systems. The appraisal of the whole park at the time was $350,000. So less than the individual property at the entrance that we could buy. And a lot of that's because it's crisscrossed with easements, and the majority of it's in a flood hazard area. So it's zoned as single-family residential, but it's not developable.
So in terms of the benefit to the borough is, you know, it's just, in some ways kind of odd. There's a park in town the borough doesn't own, manage, and maintain. And the borough has no property on the other side of Route 17 except for unimproved property where, you know, we're talking about putting the bridge and a walking path and the pump houses we have back there. So it kind of doesn't make sense we don't have a park there. But, you know, I guess depending on your perspective will determine what you think the value is of the park. I mean, the Soccer Association has used it in the past. You know, some of the younger baseball and softball teams have used it in the past. So, you know, there is some potential benefit there for broader use. But
Yeah.
only if there's better access and parking, things like that.
Yeah, I think in general, the park is a good idea. I like it. I like parks, especially in Bergen County. There's just too many homes, too many people, so parks are good. I think the issue is going to be timing, right? Because it sounds like the owners of the property want to move soon, and HCA is not wanting to come to a decision here. So it makes sense to buy the house if we know HCA is going to give us the park, and I agree we should get it for free. So how do we speed that up so we can make a decision on the home?
Well, couldn't we purchase the property, and if HCA has no interest in selling, giving us the park, we could sell that piece of property?
Prior to receiving grant funding, yes. After you receive grant funding, no, but we wouldn't be awarded grant funding until at the earliest December of this year. So, you know, you would have that option.
I
Well,
think
you would have that
getting
option.
more-
But what, if you chose to apply to Bergen County Open Space and accept the money, at that point, even if HCA chose not to move forward, you would have park space on West Saddle River Road. But prior to that, you would have some flexibility.
When was the last time you reached out to the son? I mean, did they
I,
find
s-
a place?
I had emailed him, the son being the family of the owner of this property that we're discussing. I emailed him 2 weeks ago to let him know kind of how this process was going to take place in terms of discussions with the mayor and council. If, you know, at best, they decide to acquire the property, when that would happen. You know, we have introduction of the budget in March, adoption in April. Bond money will become available in May, and if we support it, or a majority of you support it, you know, start the closing.
You think he's still interested in giving us
In selling us the property? I mean, from anybody's perspective, the borough would pay fair market value for the price, so they're not donating land to us, right? And so I don't think there's a downside to him doing this, to the family doing this, I should say. They get fair market value for their home.
Well, I think if we're gonna approve this project, the next step is like right away, speak to HCA.
Tomorrow, I
Absolutely.
call him tomorrow.
Is there room for negotiation on the price? I mean, I've seen that house.
Yeah.
400,000's
So there's
a little
not,
steep.
there's not negotiation. If we were to purchase it, we will pay fair market value for the house, whatever that's determined. How we came upon this $400,000 number, slightly padded, you know, it's we looked at comps in the area, which are difficult, because if you know the condition of the house, there's not a lot of homes in the area in that condition. So we looked at homes in the area that have sold, and then also homes in Waldwick that have sold that were in similar states of disrepair, and try to get an idea. So I worked on that with our tax assessor and kind of came up with a range that we discussed with the family. It's less than $400,000. But you figure, you know, the property itself is valuable still, even without the home. And so you're looking at $250,000 to $375,000.
Okay. Yeah, because it's essentially a piece of land. No one can buy that home.
I mean, potentially even less than that, because you take on the onus of demolishing a home, right?
Yeah, okay.
I have a question. So no one wants to get this fire truck, but this is gonna cost $400,000. Can we use this $400,000 toward a fire truck? Because it's gonna take a lot of time and money to get that fire truck, even if we don't get it this year, right?
I mean, I don't have a comment, that's a decision for you to decide. The only comment would be that the $400,000 would likely be offset by potentially $300,000 from the county.
So it'll come out to 100,000.
For this property, yes.
So if I can make a suggestion, Mayor?
Sure.
You know, one of the things that's kind of worked for us in the past is we could look at the capital budget and kind of go down the list and, you know, just kind of get a feel for who supports something or if there's something that needs further review and discussion, and we want to decide at our next meeting. But some of these things I think are going to be pretty easy to decide, and we can probably get through this pretty quickly. Just a comment before, you know, we start looking at the list is, it's kind of interesting when Patrick, you know, started the discussion by saying, you know, we look at a capital budget of 1.2 to 1.4 million. It used to be we'd look at a capital budget for about 600,000, and that was our goal. Then it became 800,000, then $1 million. I'm not sure if it's $1.4 million anymore. When you look at just road resurfacing projects, proposed here is $900,000. So if it costs $900,000 to pave your roads, and that gives you 8,000 square feet of road, or linear feet, linear feet of road to repave, and you have to do that every year. We're looking at that just for road repaving. That doesn't even get you a roll-off truck or a dump or anything else, never mind fire trucks and police cars. So we do have to face some new realities, I think, in that regard, because one of the things that you think about is if you ever pulled back on your road repaving project, you just fall further behind. And then you get some additional challenges in the future. So perhaps, you know, we could start at the top and work our way down, and, you know, we could either make decisions very quickly or say we want to discuss this more and move on. You figure, you know, because then we could spend about a half an hour doing this, see how long it takes us to do that, if that sounds all right to you, Mayor?
Sure.
Can I ask one question? Maybe this is stupid or not, but with the fire truck, we can't put away $600,000 for the next 3 years and pay for it that way.
You could, yeah. Well, you could put away money for the next 3 years and then pass an ordinance that includes the money that you've saved, yes.
So this,
He means, can you order a truck now and then put the money away and pay when you get the truck?
No, we have to have the money approved by the mayor and council in order to encumber funds and issue a purchase order.
One quick question. So the down payment, you said that's outside of cap, right?
That's right. All debt service is outside of cap, so fortunately, unfortunately, nothing you're going to discuss here is going to affect our situation on appropriations cap.
Okay. So you ready to start?
and one other question, overall, taxes. Doing this capital budget on the $3.9 million, how much is that going to raise taxes in the year? Do you have any general idea or no? Or
No money, it won't have an effect on the tax rate this year, but for the 5% down payment, which, you know, is not so great that we couldn't raise it out of surplus, right? So what you approve this year won't have an effect on this year's tax rate, for the most part. Future years is what you worry about. You know, and each year you go up. We typically go out, we sell debt every 6 years, typically. And we look to have debt roll off every 6 years. And so, you know, what you don't want to have happen is that over a 6-year period, you increase your capital budget, and then when you, in that 6th year you sell, now that 7th year you're paying debt service at a much higher rate than what just rolled off. You know, so we want to try to keep that relatively flat, which is why, even though we don't need to, you know, hit 1.2, 1.4 each year, we want to try to, you know, whatever we get to should rhyme with that, so that we don't, you know, find ourselves in too much of a hole when we start paying down debt.
So, and I think that's a really important point. I just want to make sure everybody understands this. So at any given time, we have long-term notes out there that pays our debt. But in those, like a year like this is, we will get a bond anticipation note. So that's a short-term note. And when we've accumulated 6 years' worth of notes, we go out for a long-term note, and then we actually start making payments against that debt, okay? At that 6th year, though, we're paying off another note that we acquired 18 years before. That's now being paid off. So we're starting a new note when we paid off an old note. So does that kind of make sense to you guys?
But because we structure it like that, you could, you have a delayed effect of the decisions you make here today. You're not going to have to pay debt service on what you decide here today for another 4 years, right? 3 years? 3 years.
So there's also, one of the things you say, well, do we have high debt? Do we have low debt? And that's all kind of relative to your operating budget. And I think for most years, we're seen as having low debt, compared to our taxing capacity, compared to the value of our assets, compared to our operating budget. And I think in exchange, we have a healthy surplus, and all those other things is why we enjoy a very good bond rating. So when we do go out to borrow money, for instance, the last time we went out to borrow money, what would you say was the rate that?
2.25, something like that, right? 2.25. Yeah, 2.3. We were pretty low. Yeah, we have a AA plus or AA N bond rating. So you couldn't get any better. A municipality of our size can't get a better bond rating than we have.
So Don, in layman's terms, or Councilman, the next 4 years accumulated capital budget is going to be what our bond looks like. So really look at this year and the next 4 years.
Right.
Okay.
So, when, and it's the kind of thing where we're in a fortunate position where, we're not going out like some towns and we have to bond $20 million to build a new municipal building. We have a new municipal building. Well, we now have a 20-year-old municipal building that we try and maintain. But, we're not looking at that kind of debt anytime in our near future. I don't know that we have any buildings, we have a new public safety building. We have, I think, a pretty reliable structure in our firehouses. I mean, you need a roof once in a while. The ambulance corps gets a leak here and there. You have to redo the kitchen. But in terms of building a whole new building, I don't know that that's anywhere in our future. So we're not looking at that kind of borrowing like we did once. I mean, when the year we built this building and the public safety building, that was a couple of years apart. The town took on a lot of debt in a very short period of time that, we've paid off, and now we're looking at the other kind of infrastructure we have to invest in. So in that regard, I think we're in a pretty good place. I mean, even you look at our school that didn't do, when you go to do that kind of complete overhaul of your infrastructure, it's a big ticket. And everybody's got to do it once in a while, and I don't see that in our future. I think our debates for the foreseeable future is going to be what we're having today. How many roads we pave, how many trucks we buy, things like that.
The fire department does have, I guess in 2025, they have 850,000 that they want for a pump, I guess. So you're looking at the next 2 years, $2.8 million. Who knows what's $850,000 going to be $1 million in 2 years, probably. So it's going to be more closer to $3 million in 2 years, 2-3 years time. And that is getting to be, it's not a building, but it's.
Yeah.
It is
Well, if you were building this building today, I don't know what it cost 20 years ago, but it costs a lot more today.
Oh, yeah.
So should we start with admin? Okay. So improvements to Hudson Ave, we have the matching grant. Any comments or questions on that?
Is that the section of Hudson that was brought up a couple times last year?
We're doing all the sections of Hudson but that part. No, I'm kidding.
So we get complaints about both sections of Hudson.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why
We're
I'm
doing
asking.
one of those sections.
Yeah.
So generally, there's the east side, the west side.
Yeah.
We literally get complaints. So this is the one on the west side. The one on the east side, we will, it's going to be on the list soon. I think, on
The
list.
west side's the one where the residents came in, though, right? I went over.
We have
and looked
residents
at
come in
that.
on both sides. Yeah.
All right.
And I'm sure when they see that it's not their side of Hudson, they'll be back this year.
We're good? Okay.
Yep.
Improvements to Bonnert Place, again, that's a CDBG grant. This is money we got in '22, correct? Patrick? Or is this what we're applying for this year?
No. We already received approval for this. We'll receive
Okay.
the money. It's a reimbursement grant, so we'll receive the money afterwards.
So it was the application process in '22 for the grant this year?
That's right.
Okay, good.
That's right.
Okay. Because you already have a plan for this year's application.
We have already applied this year
Right.
for the section of, off of West Prospect here, between West Prospect and Wyckoff Ave. Harrison?
Oh, yeah.
That
yeah.
section of Harrison. I believe that's our application.
Brookview Park Bridge, 150,000, but it could be less, as we said, and that's half Bergen County Open Space Grant and half Waldwick Open Space. We're good? Okay. So the charging stations, that's a tough one because, we have the matching grant and then it's 130,000 out of our pocket, but it is self-funding or will be self-funding and perhaps profitable in the future. And I guess if you don't take the grant and you put in the cheaper ones, you're getting a cheaper program. And I'm not sure what the return is on that. So tough one to swallow, but it's always hard to turn down a grant of that size as well. Thoughts, comments?
What's the life? Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope,
Oh,
it's the
no,
same
I
question.
was-
It's the
okay,
same question.
all right. Want to say it together?
Sure.
How long do they last? Does anyone know?
I'll get the specific answer. I know there's a minimum of 5-year warranty included on it. The lifespan is longer than that, but I can get you specific information on what he says. Unfortunately, I don't know the exact lifespan.
So these things are pretty new. I wonder how they know that.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I mean, that's based on the estimates, but
Yeah.
I do know there is a warranty involved for a minimum.
Well, that's
of 5
good
years.
warranty then.
Yeah.
So we're going to leave that there for now?
Put a TBD?
And just so you know, I mean, the more decisions we can make, the less we have to leave unopened or opened, because our next meeting is after our council meeting next Tuesday. So the more decisions we make tonight, the better we're off we are to address the tougher issues next Tuesday. The IT and telecom equipment, I think 20,000 for computers for 5 or 6 years is pretty good. All right. We made a commitment to do the wall vac bathroom and kitchen. And I think most people here do know, wall vac is independent. They buy their own ambulance. They normally buy their own equipment. We do own the building, so it is our property. And we did make a commitment to do the bathroom and the kitchen to them last year.
Just going back real quick, what's CIF, Patrick?
Capital Improvement Fund, so that's money that we either pledge to the Capital Improvement Fund each year in the operating budget, or money that has been approved prior and canceled off to the fund. Did I get that part right, Colleen? Yeah, and so right now, and we usually appropriate, or we usually use each year in the Capital Improvement Fund about $100,000. Right now in the Capital Improvement Fund, Capital Improvement Fund, we've got $89,090 as a balance, plus what we contribute in this year's operating budget.
Capital improvement fund money is used for down payments or to fully fund certain, smaller projects.
We also have capital surplus money in a fund, $277,000, that can be used to offset some of this. And so we should talk about what the appropriate amount of offsets with each year is. It's not something you want to use each year, because then the next year you're going to be saying, well, how come we were able to afford this last year, or where'd all the money we have saved up go? But in your reserve there, you've got, again, $277,000 in capital surplus, $89,000 in the capital improvement fund, and a little over $100,000 in the police vehicle trust.
So, in the capital surplus fund, I believe if, say, something were to come up mid-year we hadn't budgeted for, we could use that money in a capital improvement. Water main break, we got to repave half a road or something, no?
Not water main break, because that'd be on the water side, and
Okay.
you can always appropriate on the water side, and because we have a self-liquidating utility, it is, there's no 5% down payment required. But yes, things that come up in the year. I wouldn't say an emergency, because we could always pass an emergency appropriation, but let's say late this year, we decide we need a capital program, we need a new truck, something broke that didn't rise to the level of an emergency. Yeah, you want to have a balance in those accounts, for sure.
Great. AEDs? Everybody okay with AEDs? All right.
Skip the Lucas.
Oh, Lucas, yeah, sorry.
Yes.
That one you got to do.
Yes.
They're doing one, we have to do one.
With the AEDs, we're gonna get grant.
We're going to check on grants. Okay. And the park space, we're going to wait to see how the discussion goes with either the current HCA officers or future HCA officers.
Is that what, does the full council, or the majority of the council, support pursuing it to that level? Understanding what we think the costs are here, does the majority of the council support that?
Well, let's go around, because he's got to know.
I gotta-
The full costs are 100,000 if it's offset by a grant, right?
So full
For the
cost
house.
for the project, so let's talk about both. You're talking about potentially $100,000 for the home, and potentially, it could be zero, or could be, call it another $100,000 for the park. So $200,000 potentially. Listen, it could be anything, because you don't know what,
The 100,000 is for improvements, though, right? We're not buying HCA.
No.
it
Right.
depends. It depends. I don't know that.
Find out.
I don't
Can
know
you
that.
use that capital improvement
So,
fund?
so there are two options. HEA could decide that they want to give us the park because they understand that we can make a greater improvements than they are able to make, or they could say, kick rocks, we're going to keep it ourselves, and the only way you're going to get it from us is if you give us a good offer. A good offer, right now, our appraiser estimated to be $350,000. I don't know what,
Plus
what
the
that really
400.
means. Right, that's correct, plus a 400, that's 350 for the HCA, 400 for the house, and you're talking, there's, when the county looked at it, they said this was a good program, they don't have a good application project, they don't have a lot of these come up, because there's not a lot of park space available in Bergen County, and we would be competitive for it. So I would hope that we would get 3/4 of this funded, so you're talking about just acquisition, $200,000 for both of those projects.
Could you use that capital improvement fund to, improve it, I guess, if you said 100,000?
Yeah.
You could use that, next year, we could use a capital improvement.
Yeah.
fund to
Well,
Yeah, absolutely.
the other
And we-
thing that the borough could do, the HCA can't do, is apply for grants.
Yeah,
Whether
right.
it's a Bergen County open space or other things, private entities can't do that, only the borough.
And there are also other philanthropic groups that may, pledge some amount of match to this, which Kelly and I, will explore if this is supported. But we kind of talk about it, but I just, before I make the call, I want to make sure that the council, up until this point, we never fully had an idea about what Bergen County would offer, and if we could acquire this property at the entrance, which is key. But now we have both of those lined up in, verbally at least, in a general understanding. So, now's the time when the council should decide.
I'd be okay with it as long as the HCA didn't ask for too much money.
So if they ask for too much money, then the project goes down.
Yep,
Both.
yep.
Okay.
I agree with that.
I agree with that too.
Yeah, it would have to be for no money. But I would be okay committing to putting stuff in the park in future years and
Yeah.
building it up and making them a part of it, but just not buying the park.
Yeah.
I'm in favor as well.
Very good.
So that means that if they come across with a bigger amount of money for the project, I mean, to buy it, we're done. We're not doing it.
We can't,
Okay.
not nice, we can take it over, right? By eminent domain.
If you take it over by eminent domain, you pay fair market value. There's no discussion about anything less, unless they choose to accept that. So you would pay the full $350,000. And even if you did that, the county may, you would still be eligible to apply for county funding even if we used eminent domain. But the county prefers, like anybody, like we would prefer, to have a willing seller.
Can we stretch this out over 2 years? I mean, 1 year, buy the house and say commit to the next year?
So that doesn't matter because we're not taking this money out to fully finance for another 4 years anyway. So if you spread it across 2 years, I mean, it helps in terms of the idea of budgeting and keeping things relatively flat. But if it's a project you want to fund, just fund it because it doesn't have any benefit to stretch it across 2 years.
Yeah. So we're down to road resurfacing. The streets Patrick listed gets price tag of about $405,000.
And when I circulate the list of properties or of roadways, I'll list the how much each of them is, and so you can decide. Maybe you want to pave one or two less, and you'll know exactly what our savings would be should we do that.
Okay. So the ADA ramp upgrade amount is tied directly into the streets we're doing as well.
That's right. Like, let's say you took off Manhattan, you're going to save 11,000 for ramps. You take off Summit, you're going to save an additional 26,000.
All right. Thermoplastic striping, I think that's something we have to do every year. The Malcolm Street pump control rehab sewers. I mean, that's not really optional either, is it? Okay. The pool repairs, not really optional.
You could choose to not do them. You choose,
You know,
you're going to
water leak.
lose resources.
Yeah, you know, the water leaking.
Yeah, I mean,
Lose water.
yeah, we're pumping water into it.
Yeah.
The borough pays the water bill, yeah. But we're we've got, we pump a lot of water in
Yeah,
there
well,
each year.
Mike will be upset. He goes there every
Yeah,
day.
yeah. Let's start bringing his own water.
Once again, that's another.
You gotta bring a cup every day.
Homeowners that have large, similar to the homeowners that have large leaks and don't get any, consideration. And same with us,
Yeah.
we're not getting.
Right.
We pay the bill.
Yeah.
Until she put her other hat on.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. The upgrades in Borough Park, electrical upgrades. We're good?
I mean, well, we are using the park more than ever, and we do have concerts there, and it is dark at night, and you got the fire, the DPW coming out with their generators. And hate to have, and, the ground there is not, steady, and it's a little bumpy and everything. I hate to have somebody fall because there's no lighting.
So this is just to put in the wiring, this is putting lights into? Patrick, is this putting lights into in
Yeah.
the park?
Kelly, did you get the quote or did Mike get the quote for lighting? So this was to rewire the pavilion and the pavilion, so that we could leave the lights on, and to add lighting from the pavilion and I believe from the bathrooms that would flood out into the area around like the lawn space.
I actually think the quote also includes some other things. So
It-
the Christmas tree.
It had included a shut off by the Christmas
and outlets
tree.
on that side of
Yeah.
the.
I'll circulate the
there's a bunch
full
of stuff.
proposal.
It's not just that.
And it wasn't going from the pool lot down to put
No.
some illumination there?
No, we
No.
didn't do that. We didn't even include that.
That's something we should have done.
Well,
Not, I mean, this year.
not this year.
But that could be a project.
I'll circulate the full lighting proposal. Yeah, it's a long one.
Will
I-
our Christmas tree lighting be more technical this year than me plugging it in?
Yes.
It couldn't be less technical.
Everybody asked you. They asked if you're gonna be here next year.
Hey, it's your job now. It's your job
Weren't,
now.
weren't we bringing the lights from the Oval over to Borough Park?
The Lions Club never came to us on anything like
Okay.
that. So, I mean, if they're gonna do that, that'll be great. It'll help us, but, I mean.
We
never-
definitely need this, I
Yeah,
understand.
I mean,
but-
they never came to us with it, and, you know, I didn't wanna go and ask. I figured, you know, they'll come to us. I mean, I asked
And
one
maybe before we do
client-
that, we should talk about how we could use the Oval more.
Storage.
No,
So,
no, I mean, it's a nice facility, and, you know, I mean, we stopped using it because of the pandemic, and,
She has a night, well.
well, it's not just that. The issue with the Oval is that you can't fit as many people.
right.
And then you also need traffic control and other lighting so that people can cross the street
Oh.
to get to the pool parking. So, when I was first here, that seemed to be a little chaotic, to do that. And then when people came late to the concert, they were kind of jammed in and maybe couldn't see. So Borough Park, because we're getting more people, to these concerts, and a variety of people, all different, age groups, it just seems to be working better. I mean, there's other things you can do at the park. You can do one-scene plays, you can do, I don't know, kids' concerts. I don't know, there's all kinds of things you can do. You just need money.
The Washington Chamber of Commerce one year did a movie night, right?
Yeah, you could do those kinds of things there, because that would be smaller groups.
I remember
That's
one,
all.
yeah, one year. we
I
had-
think I love it. It's just that we kind of grew out of it.
One year we had a concert at the Oval, and I forgot what band it was. The band was so popular that they had to close the streets off because people were in the street listening to the
I
band.
think it was,
And, you know, that's
Eagles
good.
cover band.
We have a lot of people coming to our concerts now. Everybody likes it. But, I mean, there's other things we could do, like you're suggesting in the Oval. I mean, you could have, you know,
Or it
movie
could-
night, you got kids doing
It
stuff.
could also be a splash park.
expand the pool, yeah. Expand the pool.
No, splash pad.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
Before we spend more money.
So,
I'll spend
Yeah,
it.
just a,
so,
So the electrical upgrades, you put to be determined?
electrical upgrades.
To be
TBD.
determined. Was that what
Okay.
you said?
No, I'd say yes.
The more we can do in the park, the better. I love it.
Oh, okay. I can, all right. So Patrick will get you the,
Yep.
I'd
yeah,
love to
just so
see
you
the
can see what it's.
lights there too.
Okay, so on the sewer truck. So we're talking about actually the back of the VACCon, is that what it's called?
That's right, just the back.
Just the back. Well, I think it is positive that when the truck goes, we can put it on a new chassis. Because it should now outlast the chassis that it's on.
That's right, yeah.
So that's a positive
Yeah.
thing. Okay. And I can't speak to its importance or how much it's used, but I see it on the road an awful lot, all times a day. Thoughts, comments? Keeper?
I mean, they could have went for the 585, but they took the 485, so that's pretty good.
Okay. And the platform roll-off salter, this is replacing one that's corroded, or is this, okay?
Yes, replacement.
It's a replacement. All right.
All right, here comes the.
How it is.
So let's skip the ladder truck for just a minute, and let's do the turnout gear. The turnout gear, I think we have to do, and we get a grant for it, so that's in. Air packs and cylinders.
You need
And,
this.
and just, I guess, from what Patrick was saying, basically, we had air packs and cylinders that no longer met the current criteria, but we had so many, they're so expensive, it's been, what, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah,
We've
that
been
we-
phasing out the old ones, purchasing new ones.
That's right.
So this is the last year of about a 5-year project to replace the air packs.
Yep. We'll be saving money next year. We're already finding saving.
Um,
But there's 7-year packs.
Yeah, yeah. No. So they haven't projected that this will be a recurring expense in future years. At some point, obviously, will, but
Okay,
not in this budget.
Knox box,
I mean, you could do without it. You have, but
How many does the 11,000 get you?
For every truck and the fire prevention vehicle. Good for the fire prevention vehicle because when they go to do their fire inspections, they check the keys in each box. And so they're opening that, so they have a set of keys with them.
So I guess I never knew such a thing existed.
Yeah.
So we have a key to every commercial building in town.
I wouldn't say everyone, but it is common for, I'd say the majority of commercial buildings to put a Knox box on the outside. We have one here on Borough Hall. We didn't used to, but we do now. Maybe in your time it was. Now they call them Knox boxes.
All right, so,
I think they used to just hang them on a nail outside the door.
yeah.
What a sign, don't touch.
Yeah, don't touch.
Like when you sell a house.
Yes, exactly.
I think
Yeah.
they're important because you said there's a key code, so we'll know who's gaining
Yeah.
access to those boxes.
Yeah. Now, I mean,
So-
obviously the fire department and its members have been trustworthy thus far and
Sure,
without
of
incident, but
course.
nonetheless, it's one of those things that key control makes good sense.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, plus it's the, one of the smallest items we're going to talk about,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so, okay. Pagers, and this comes up, quite a bit with pagers. I mean, in the age of technology and telephone, we're still using pagers. I just want to understand that.
Yes. We had gotten, this question was asked last year too, and we had gone through
I
this.
think
and
this
decided
question's
to
been
fund
asked for
it.
10 years.
Yeah, it probably has. I'm pulling out their, to see if they'd included any more detail.
Yeah, we have everything on our phone.
Yeah, they were telling us the phone, it was just last month.
So,
Just telling us they're going to that.
yeah, I mean, they didn't provide much more. To provide, to replace aging and defective pages that have become inoperable over the years. They still wear pagers. Not everybody maybe, but they still issue pages and wear them, so.
I can't believe they sell them still.
I mean, it's not like a beeper pager, but it's,
It's like your phone goes off, the same thing the pager.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so,
Fund it all. Now, if you can do before or after you go back to the ladder truck, do you want to fund these things with some of our reserves? So, right, or actually, we didn't get to PD. Sorry.
We didn't, what are the pagers?
I think we said yes.
Yes to pagers. Sorry, PD has 2 vehicles. I didn't mean to.
That's okay. So, Patrick is asking if we want to pay for these. What were the options?
No, I was saying at the end of the conversation, we can discuss if you want to fund any of these with our reserves.
Okay.
Police reserve, capital surplus reserve, improvement fund.
So maybe we look at the police vehicles before we go back to the ladder truck.
Yep.
So the one police vehicle is basically in rotation to be done. So that one we pretty much have to get, right? So the question is now, we used to pay for this out of capital improvement fund. So now, we have it in capital here. So the question is, do we pay for it out of another fund? Okay.
Yep.
Well, maybe we decide if we're going to purchase both vehicles, and then we decide that?
I think the patrol vehicle, you have to purchase because we have to cycle them through. They just,
Yep.
We end up with cars with not a lot of miles, but a lot of operating time, and they are used hard. And so you can't fall behind here. The question would be the OEM vehicle. I mean, they've limped across that 2004 for long enough. Could they do it for another year? Sure. So the question would be, do you want to see that increase function? Do you want to fund it?
So, since I have the microphone, I'll just start. I think OEM is important in our town. I think it's ebbed and flowed over the years. It sounds like they're getting their act together. I thought there were some good questions asked about how it differentiates from the current fire chief's command vehicle and patrol vehicles. So I guess there's some differentiation there. And I actually was leaning against until I found out we are replacing another vehicle, because I didn't want to add another vehicle, so at least we'll be getting rid of a vehicle, so, I'm probably leaning towards supporting that, but would be interested in what others' thoughts are.
And we could purchase both vehicles out of vehicle maintenance if you so choose. That's, so it wouldn't hit our capital budget, it'll be funded out of that trust. We generate money into that trust for every outside duty that we operate. We had gangbusters the last year and a half with Altice coming through town, so we made quite a bit of money. Colleen, how much would you think goes into that? 141 in the trust right now. What do we generate in a normal year? 30, 20? 15 to 20 a year. Yeah.
If that's the case, we're gonna fund it out of that, I would say.
It's got it right now.
Go down the list. Young lady?
I'm always
If it's coming out of that other trust, I'm
Yeah.
not an issue with it.
Yeah, so for me, no matter where it comes from, I think we need it. I think he made a great presentation. This day and age, it's crazy. I think that to say it can't happen in Waldwick is an old adage. I'm thinking beyond snowstorms with the use of this vehicle, unfortunately. So that is one thing I would not want to put off if we can get it. So I would go yes.
I thought the lieutenant made a great presentation as well. We're replacing a 2002 vehicle. And like Councilman Ritchie said, they seem to be making great strides in this program. And, whatever, I don't think he would be here pleading his case for the vehicle if he didn't need a vehicle. So I am in full support of it. Anyway, we need to fund it.
Okay.
Out of vehicle maintenance?
So let's go back to the ladder truck, and whether it's a ladder truck or anything else, it really is a difficult decision. Tom and I have been doing this for many years, and every time you make this purchase, you just kind of hold your nose and go, okay, we got to take the dive. We got to buy a truck. I think a couple of the things that I was thinking about as they were talking, I think they did a nice job, made a lot of good points, made some good arguments for it. I'm still not convinced about the truck and its price tag. I'm looking at the spec sheet, and one of the things they gave us, it's like 4 pages long with print this big with terms I never heard of. And I think the frustration I had going into this was a year ago we said to them, we want a committee where we have representatives on it, and it was to just address that concern. It's like, what's in this truck? Why does this thing have to be in this truck? How much does it cost? So it's almost like we're being told, this is the truck for $1.9 million, take it or leave it. When I would have rather had, Patrick and Katie part of the process to say, well, you know what, this is the truck, and have them say to us, what's in this truck is only what is needed to be in this truck. No bells and whistles, no gold trim, So I can't say that now about this truck. So I think I'm supportive of replacing this truck. I'm just not sure I'm supportive of replacing it with what they proposed to us.
Is there any way we could go back to him and talk to him about what, the concerns are here, before we make a commitment?
Well, and I'd like to hear others' concerns. That's my
Right, yeah,
concern.
sure.
And it very well may be that that's what a ladder truck costs. But, we all know when we buy something, there's stuff that that's the function of the item, and if you have a little more money, you buy the niceties that come with that item. I don't know how they approached designing this truck or building this truck and requesting this truck, so maybe everything on it is what they need and nothing more, but I don't know that.
Do you have any idea how they went about doing this? So we could have,
I don't much, to be fair. So Councilwoman Saracola and I were involved in the first meeting, kind of their kickoff, which was short and introductory. And we were involved in their final meeting, which was, here's the truck that we want, here's the price tag. That was certainly to my frustration. I had reached out to the fire department a few times, requested updates on what they were doing and requested involvement in the meetings. They said they weren't having meetings, which I guess would concern me, because if you're able to arrive at a $1.9 million request without having meetings, I would have concern with how you arrived at that number. So I can't speak much to the process, and that leaves me at a loss and frustrated. I do know that the truck is near the end of its useful life. I know that it will become more difficult to maintain because parts will become harder to find, and I know that there is a long lead time on any truck. And I know that trucks, the cost of these ladder trucks have appreciated greatly in the previous year. My frustration is I don't know what other trucks cost. I don't know what other manufacturers would have done to meet our specs. And because I wasn't involved in that process, and it sounded to me, at least, like the committee was specifically interested on this Pierce truck, and they told me that they were. They have two other Pierces. They really liked them, and Pierce was their number one choice. I am interested to know more about their number 2 and number 3 choice, and I'm interested to be a part of the process.
Well, I mean, I'd hate to jump into saying yes or no or whatever until we get maybe a couple of other ideas about what's out there. I mean, I know, how you're feeling, I know how Don's feeling, and, it is a big nut, and, I mean, I just look at it this way, the wait till 2026 for a truck is crazy, but then again, we don't know what's gonna happen. It might come in sooner than we think, but I don't know.
Well, and I just opened the email we got. There's a 16-page option list. And, there's probably things in here that if we were having this discussion, we would have said, well, we don't really need that. We don't really need this, but we do need this, and we do need this. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the frustrating part.
So
Yeah.
Councilwoman Saracola and I were present when we went through this option list. And the fire department, the members of the truck committee did a great job of, they put a great deal of thought into everything that's on the truck. How the lights are covered with guards so that they're not stepped on and ruined, and, how they access certain equipment panels and the type of doors, whether they swing open or whether they roll. So they paid a tremendous amount of, they put a tremendous amount of effort into putting together what I think is a really, really good truck. And, I think everybody would agree with that. I don't think there's a tremendous amount of fluff in the options. There are things like they wanted more outlets added underneath the seats in case they, in future years added new radio equipment, or they have the manufacturer had said $12,000 to bring some of the members of the committee out to their facility to do the truck inspection. But there are things like that where, yeah, maybe you can make some improvements, but I don't think it would be the improvement where if we made them, everybody here would say, this is a great truck and let's fund it. So I don't think you're going to make cuts to this truck to get you there. Again, my frustration is with other manufacturers. And that's knowing that you may explore that and come back and make the decision that this is the right truck for the department. But I at least am not aware of that process, and the department, being that they didn't even have budget numbers for those other trucks, I don't think fully understands that. I don't think you're going to see a great deal of savings. I did speak with a rep from another truck manufacturer, and I was able to get a price from that other truck manufacturer. It it was less expensive than this truck. Doesn't mean it's gonna meet their needs. I don't know. That's the frustration. And the final meeting that we did have with them, again, I was involved in the first meeting and the last meeting. The last meeting was, like, we're in the middle of budget, and I don't have a tremendous amount of time to explore all these options, which I would like to.
In general, I'm in the private industry. Basically, clients, I have to, whenever I have big projects, $2, $3, $4, $5 million projects, you set up a bid spec, and you go get prices. Did they do that? And you don't know, and Katie doesn't know, I don't think.
We asked
Well,
them, they said no.
they said that they were too big, right? They were too long, that's why they didn't
Yeah.
retain it.
And
They
I-
couldn't turn it around or something.
They're pricing this out through the Houston Galveston Area Cooperative, which is basically it's the national cooperative that every municipality uses to purchase fire trucks. They've got loads of trucks on there, so it's not just Pierce, right? But we're getting competitive quotes for this truck with these options, right? So I'm sure of that. Again, I think it goes back to, for me, what were the other
terms
options?
of
And I think, I think we might have ended up back at the same point, or at least close to it. But I don't know that with such certainty that I would make a recommendation, that I can make a recommendation for 1.9 million.
Did we get multiple quotes for the last trucks we bought in the past? Does anyone know?
I think, to my understanding from the mayor and council at the time when they had requested of the fire department that they have the ability to put people on council, it hadn't been done before. But we also hadn't spent 1.9 on a fire truck before. I think that was the difference.
I understand your point, I just don't, I get it, we can go back to them and ask them and get quotes.
No, come back to you for comment.
No, come back to you for comment. What do you want to comment now?
Oh, I can comment now.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I support it because I think we need it. It's a volunteer fire department, we need the truck. And it's a little concerning that it's gonna take until 2026. I don't really see things getting better, but I understand it's a lot of money. I don't know.
I'll give you a moment to think, because I see you're not ready with an answer. The other thing to consider is, right now you are approving funding. You could approve $3 million of funding. Other than our down payment, we haven't spent a dime, right? This is purely a number and a capital budget. That means, at least in the budget-wise, it means nothing. You're going to do two things after this. You're going to introduce and adopt capital ordinances, which approve a range or a high limit, right, of what you can spend, but that doesn't even borrow any money. It's not until you award a contract, pass a resolution awarding a contract for the purchase of a truck that you actually commit yourself to spending any money. So, you could make the choice that we understand it needs to be funded, but we don't understand that this is definitely what we need. We're going to put the money in the budget. We're going to fund the money, at least through a down payment in the budget, and we will work through a process where you feel more comfortable with passing a resolution to award a contract for the purchase of the truck.
So what you're trying to say is that you could do it that way, and then you could go back out and look for another truck.
Yeah, you'd have another bite at the apple at least, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Because I think that's everybody's concern, right? Not that there's not a need, but that we would just like to
I
see
think it's the
some
way
other
it was,
things.
the way Patrick's saying, or whatever, it's the way it was done.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the,
Mike, always interrupt.
Mike's ready.
pick up yourself.
What's that?
Cut me down.
I would never cut you down. It's a tough one, obviously, it goes without saying. Mostly because we need the truck. I think we need the truck, and just like the OEM vehicle, not getting it, put the fire department aside, it shorts the residents, right? I don't want to be a councilman during a time where there's a fire, and then it comes back, and we don't have the truck to do it. And they've done the minimum amount of work to deserve the truck, in my opinion. I think it's reprehensible that they didn't get competing quotes from other trucks. despite the fact, I don't first off buy the argument that if a truck is 2 feet longer, that all of a sudden it can't work in Waldwick. So we need the truck. I think we should budget for it, absolutely, this year. And I think we go back to them and we make them earn it. We make them prove to us why this is the truck more than they actually have, and show competing quotes. And you know, but I think we need it. So unfortunately, if we get it this year or next year, it's going into the bond. So why wait that extra year? But I think they have a lot more work to do.
I came in here with one thought process when I came to the meeting, and I listened to their presentation, and I was impressed with what they told me. They gave their reasoning why they want this brand truck, because they have other trucks of the same brand, and it would be easier to have multiple drivers be able to operate multiple equipment. I am upset that they did not include Patrick and Katie in all their meetings. That is a great disappointment to me. We were very clear last year in the budget that that's what we wanted them to do, and they chose not to include, in the very least, Patrick. That all being said, it's a 2001 truck. It's basically 3 years till we could get this new truck in town. I have to support it.
I think what we're hearing is that, you know, maybe we put the money in for the truck, but not that truck. Is that what we're thinking? Or come back with us with something else? Show a little effort, or, I mean,
Well, it may end up being that truck, I guess,
Right.
but to see other things. I would think that these companies that manufacture these vehicles at this price would be almost tripping over themselves for our business. So I would think they would even make the presentations to the fire department as to what they have, and, you know, or it just seems a little odd. You know, maybe I'm wrong, but.
could we just, you know, explain to them that there'll be a truck, but it's not gonna be, maybe not this truck, we need to have a couple more ideas about what's out there? Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah.
Because I hate to say no right away, you know, give them a little more time to, we are giving them time. We're giving them time to come up with something else.
Yeah, I'll talk to them right
If-
away.
If there's
And-
something out there or not.
I mean,
And-
I expect that, you know, I know that they made a big request. I know that they obviously took the time to come here tonight. I would expect that they are watching this meeting and that they are taking this feedback in, and I would expect, you know, if I'm not able to reach out to them first thing tomorrow morning, that I'll hear from them with their plan going forward. I
mean,
think
we're
that,
not saying no to them.
No,
We're
no,
saying, give us a little bit more.
Yeah.
So we can have a little, you know, one way or the other.
Yep.
Because it's, you know, like Terry said, it is something we need. It is old, but it's still the same way as, you know, you were given not a directive, but you were asked to do something this way and it wasn't done.
Getting back to the question I posed to the firefighters, and I wasn't thinking this way because I was looking at their faces, but the ambulance corps raises funds and they purchase their own trucks. They get donations from our residents, from businesses, and they worked hard and raised the money. Our fire department does fundraisers. Is there any way that they could help us with this cost of the truck? I feel, even if it's to buy the hose or whatever, like, make a effort. They do take in funds. I have no idea how much it is. Maybe it's $100 a year. I have no idea. But I just feel like one volunteer organization raises enough money to purchase an ambulance. They must have a little bit that they could help us out.
Excuse me, just keep in mind, it's 6 times the price.
Right,
What the
but it's a
ambulance
family.
is.
help it out.
It's a fair point, and it is a very fair point. I'm just saying it's 6 times the price. You can't, they're not gonna be.
If you said, oh, look, in our fundraising, we raised $5,000, we're gonna pay for the pagers.
Well, and and there is some precedence there. I'm not sure you guys are aware of this, but twice when the library has done projects, it's fundraised. And for one project, it was anticipated, I think, $500,000 project. The library raised $200,000. And then to replace the furniture after the renovation was done, they paid for 100% of the furniture through a fundraiser, another $200,000.
Well, that's things that Patrick had asked, but I think you should just go in and tell them that, we're funding a truck, but the thing is, we want to know if there's any other trucks out there. Am I correct?
Yeah. And if they want this one, show quotes from other ones, right? Show us that it's roughly the same price and it's 2 feet longer, rather than saying we just didn't even get quotes.
I think they'll be all right with that. I mean, they're gonna know they're gonna get a truck, it's just that it might not be something they really want, and it might be, like Frank Palladino always used to say, there's wants and needs. We need it, so let's, do your job to get it.
Maybe they could get the same price, but a truck faster. 3 years.
I mean, they were out there, they know it's out there, they know how fast the truck will come in, they know what the trucks, every town has a different type of truck that they need. We need a certain truck. And anyway, I hate to have a truck break down on us, we don't have a truck with us. And then you can't depend on mutual aid, because as they said, another town has a truck fall, what are we gonna do? Their town comes first, just like our town comes first. But I think we just gotta let them know, give us something else.
Okay, and I think that's settled. Just very quickly, we should look at the water capital budget, even though it's, 9:57.
Yeah.
Anything in here, Patrick?
Take a 10-minute, bathroom break?
Sure,
if
go ahead.
we're gonna
Yeah, let's take a
continue? Are we gonna be long?
One, infrastructure improvements. This is $125,000 that we appropriate every year. It goes towards valves, hydrants, those types of things, lengths of pipe that we use, meters. So this is $125,000. We spend basically through it each year. Well house roofs. We have a few roofs, 3 of them that are in need of replacement, and not anything that can be deferred. Tank repairs, so this is the big one for the budget. There's 3 big ones. This is one of the big ones. We have 2 tanks in Whitecoff, just off of what then becomes Franklin Ave, and one of them was from 1999. The other one was built in 2011. Neither, to our superintendent's knowledge, have been cleaned since they've been installed. So what we need, and they haven't had any routine maintenance. So what we need to do is drain the tanks, power wash the walls, get a good internal and external evaluation in the tank, and then get a whole proposal for necessary upgrades. The cleaning, sampling of the materials in the walls, because it's drinking water, so you want to sample all the materials of the walls, and do a condition evaluation. All that done by a licensed engineering firm is $63,000. So that's just a portion of this, but then we expect that they're going to come back with a larger list of upgrades that are required. We want to add mixers to the tank, which will do a couple things: prevent them from freezing, which will help reduce wear and tear on the walls, and it will also improve the water clarity of those. And we know that they're going to need some roof work and some wall work just to repair general concrete deterioration. So this is $590,000 is for the whole project, but what we would do this year is the cleaning and evaluation of those tanks. $60,000, this is for the booster station hookup for the tow-behind generator and a portion of the generator. So our booster station, when we lose power, does not have, is not hooked up to a generator. We fortunately have generators in DPW, but this will be so that we can tow a generator up there and plug it in without having to get an electrician to come in and kind of wire those two things together. The next two items, they're both for the same purpose. We have a lot of dead ends here in Waldwick, and that when you have dead ends, you get dead end mains, and dead end mains can lead to water clarity issues. So we have those issues on Hemlock and Evergreen. You've heard about those this past year, and specifically there, we would look to extend the water main where Hemlock and Evergreen, it's not actually a dead end, but they dead end because we hit Midland Park. So what we would propose, and we would have to work in conjunction with Midland Park and Ridgewood Water, who has a water system in the area, to continue our main just through their roadway without any connections, but we would loop from one road to the other, and that loop would increase circulation and it would improve water clarity in the area. The other one is Sheridan and Bergen. Now, obviously, those roads intersect, but our water mains in that area do not. And that whole area has water clarity issues because there's a lot of dead ends in the area. And so those mains on one comes east-west on Bergen, the other north-south on Sheridan. They end like 100 feet from each other. And so this would be to connect those two mains in the roadway of Sheridan. So these numbers are very preliminary. In fact, I'm still waiting for estimates from Boswell on what they think it costs. These are just kind of what we calculated based off a foot of pipe installed. And so I'll have probably updated numbers later this week. Sample ports. Right now, we have to go into homes to sample for water. We got to get people each sampling cycle to agree to fill the caps from the bottles from their taps and provide them to us. It becomes an undertaking because we do it so frequently and in so many areas. So these will add sample ports, basically like fire hydrants, and we would be able to sample at the curb instead of having to go into people's homes or work with people in their homes to take these. The good thing is, like a hydrant, you're going to install it once. These have a very long lifespan.
Little sample stations.
What's that?
Little
Yeah,
sample stations.
yeah. I guess you would know better than I do. Yeah,
We
so
started putting them in during COVID because.
you don't want to be in the house.
wanna go in the
Yeah,
house.
yeah. So
So I think Mueller, we were getting them from.
yeah, she works with Suez.
Is that
so
for the
Veolia.
lead?
What's that?
Is that for the lead sampling or? test for lead?
So
Okay.
this is, regular water sampling. Part of it, yes, could be for lead sampling, but there are samples that we are required to take in the distribution system instead of at the point of origin at our well source, right? So we have to get into people's homes. They want water that's gone through the system, so this will satisfy that requirement. Yeah. The water utility truck, I'll share pictures with you afterwards, but we have that. It's a 10-year-old van used by the water department. We're looking to replace that with a new F-550. Just what we have is deteriorating and in need of replacement. And it gets out there all day, every day, that truck. And it goes on, all of our emergency water calls. It's very useful, and it's in need of replacement.
180,000?
Yeah, so it's $95,000 for the chassis and $85,000 for the body. When you see, the van that we have, that back portion is all, it's fabricated metal, and yeah, those back ends get expensive. And the one we have now, I'm sure at the time it was less expensive, but that's not. You pay that for that truck, yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen it, so I can't even
So
picture
I'm gonna
it.
share.
The plumber's body truck.
Yeah. So it's got a
Oh,
two. It's got a
Okay.
square back with two
I-
walk-in
yeah,
doors.
now I know.
And then on the outside is more like a rack, not a rack body, like a utility body, where it's got all the cabinets on the outside. It's got hose reels inside of it. It's got rooms for generator inside of it. And we have a lot of that on our existing truck. This is an improvement and a replacement.
Okay.
I'll share
Yeah.
pictures with you tomorrow. The next one, we have a trailer that we tow around. It's made by Wax, and that does the turning of all of our valves in town, which is a requirement of the Water Quality Accountability Act. We have to turn our valves every so often, depending on their size. And when you do it, there's a lot of, you end up creating problems with the actual valve. And so this is it's a nut RX. It's a nut doctor. So when you go to get the valve turner on the actual valve, a lot of times, maybe you have to replace the valve stem itself, and this machine will help you do that without taking the whole valve out of the ground. It also has some adapters for harder to turn valves. So just, we have a real good piece of equipment, and it makes this more useful. And then the last item there, mini excavator, that was also on the DPW request. We pushed it off at least for a year. They have a backhoe that they use now for excavation. It works well. I agree a mini excavator would work better, but we have something that does the job now, and we'll keep it. That's the water budget.
And just a reminder, this is a capital of the water budget. It's paid for by water fees, not property tax.
Okay, you're under 10 minutes. You're good.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, I'll buy back my time.
Anybody have any questions?
Are we gonna approve all this, or do we just are we going line by line, or? I mean,
Is there anything you wanted
No.
to challenge?
No.
Questions? We're good.
all right.
Anybody else have a question? Anybody? Do I have a motion to say goodnight? Motion by Mike, second by Don.